He has come to survey things, to make sure that things are in place. Surveyor, welcome, sir, Your Excellency. Thank you. We have with us, ladies and gentlemen, the former Minister of Youth and Sports Development in Nigeria, Bolaji Abdullahi. You're welcome, sir. Let's move. We also have in our midst Senator Lawa Shaibu, immediate past Deputy National Chairman of APC. You're welcome, sir. Just as we also have Dr. Garba Abari, Director General, National Orientation Agency. Of course, Dr. Abari must be here. If the issue is about Nigeria's unity, Dr. Abari must be here, and we thank him for being here. Welcome, Doc. Help me and make welcome Professor Jidofo Adibe, who is one of our panelists. We will introduce him formally when the time comes. Professor Adibe, please. You're welcome, Prof. Now, this Prof is not wearing white hair. I know Profs too. This Prof is having my kind of, I know Profs to be like Professor Jega. If Professor Jega removes his cap, you'll see what I'm saying. It's all gray. Prof, you're welcome. All right. So we have with us also Honorable Engineer Magajidao Aliu, who is the representative of Birnin Kudu Buji Federal Constituency of Jigawa State. Honorable sir, where can we find you? Honorable has gone to discuss a bill. He will come back. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dr. Otivie Ibuzo, Chief of Staff to the Deputy Senate President. Now, there are these delegates who came from Medicine Sans Frontières, that's Doctors Without Borders, West and Central Africa / Nigeria. I'm glad you are here, and we have to welcome you. Dr. Mohamed Sissoko. Dr. Mohamed Sissoko. He is. Bienvenue, docteur. Bienvenue. Bonjour. Ça va là? Oui, oui. Asseyez-vous, s'il vous plaît. You don't know what we are saying. That's the way we rule, you know. All right, so let me tell you that Dr. Sissoko is of the West and Central Africa. He's the ambassador, is it? West and Central Africa. You're welcome, sir. We also have with us Dr. Simba Tirima, who is the country rep, Doctors Without Borders, Nigeria. Doc, you're welcome. Thank you. Then they brought in Professor Simeon Alozie Owa, who is the country advisor, Doctors Without Borders. Prof, I salute you, sir. We also have with them Nwosu Ezenwa, ambassadors, Central Africa ambassador's assistant. And that's why you're far away from them. Is it by design? Okay. You are comfortable there? Thank you. Because what MSN has joined together, let National Prosperity Movement not put asunder. Nze Chidi Duru, chairman of Grand Towers, is here also. Nze. Oh, you're welcome, sir. We have His Royal Highness Igwe Ezenwa Anyanwu, Ezendi Igbo Karu Chiefdom, FCT Abuja. Your Royal Highness, sir. You're welcome. This clap is turning down, and I'm not. I was going to talk to the chef, but let me hold back. We have Honorable Barrister Peter Owolabi, member representing Ekiti North Federal Constituency. Oye local government. Where is he? Oh, the law. The law, you're welcome, sir. Just as we also have Honorable Fatuba Olusola, member House of Reps for Ado-Ekiti, Irepo-Dun, Ifolodun Federal Constituency. You're welcome, sir. Is there anything about Ekiti happening here? I'll find out. I didn't hear, sir. You love National Prosperity Movement. Prosperity for you, sir. Prosperity for you. There is also with us here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Yemi Adaramoju, Ekiti South Federal Constituency. Honorable sir, you're welcome. We appreciate your love for us. There is with us also Abdulkarim Musa from Lagos, CEO, Sea Trade, Marine and Logistics. Oh yeah, You're welcome, sir. NPM Development Programming Strategist. She should have been a prof. Look at her hair. Okay, you are an associate prof. Let me now readdress her. Associate Professor, NPM Development Program Strategist. Claim it. Claim it. Who knows? We also have Alhaji Mushud A. Adoti, Coordinator, National Prosperity Movement, Osun State. Is he here? You're welcome. You are very prosperous. I can see it all over you. Zubeiru Saidu, Yobe State Assistant Coordinator, NPM is also here with us. Thank you. It's good you came. Let me tell you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that Right Honorable Emma Bassi, State Coordinator, NPM Akwa Ibom State, is here with us too. Where is he? You're welcome. Then we have Ambassador Alex Mofe, Coordinator, Ebonyi State. Jokwa, sir. Jokwa. Imeraga. All right. Dr. Emeka Nwosu, National Convener, Nigeria Equity Group. Doc, the one I call Dudu. Welcome, sir. Chief Honorable John Halim Sto Agoda, OFR. You're welcome, sir. Honorable, I greet you. Yeah, so what is going to happen is that our introductions will be a continuous process. You know, Alhaji Shehu Shagari, God bless his soul, was the one who said that movement to Abuja is a gradual process. And today, Abuja is filled up. So our movement today will be a gradual process, and we shall get there. So now that you know that our chairman is here, I'm just going to stand here, take permission from chairman, sir. Can we run with the program, Mr. Chairman? He gave me a salute. Once a soldier, always a general. So we run with this program. We will now start with what we're supposed to do at 10:05 a.m. right up. Can we be all upstanding for the national anthem, please? Kindly still be upstanding. We will take the second stanza of the national anthem for our opening prayers. Go ahead, please. Did you hear? Thank you very much. You may now sit. Did you hear that last one? And justice shall reign. May justice reign in our country every day and every time. Thank you very much. So we had set our protocol. Your Excellencies, the deputy governors here that we have seen, members of the National Assembly present. Chairman of today's event, Major General IBM Haruna, retired. His Eminence Alhaji Saad Abubakar, the Sultan of Sokoto, ably represented by the Emir of Kefi, Alhaji Shindoya Musa III. Our own very Professor Atahiru Jega. I know why I keep emphasizing when I call that name. The former INEC chairman and our keynote speaker today. Our panelists who will be deepening the discussions around our theme, our contributors as well, distinguished guests gathered in this magnificent venue. Everyone, wherever you are seated, you are as important as every other one for us. You're all welcome. Let me have you put your hands together again, so I know we are together. I had told you that the program that has brought all of us together today is a national discourse put together by the National Prosperity Movement. And I will continue to talk about their motto, prosperity for all. Can I tell you a little bit of National Prosperity Movement? It's a national socio-political group founded on the principles of justice, equity, and inclusion, and seeks a Nigeria that is peaceful, stable, prosperous for the generality of the people. The National Prosperity Movement, you need to hear this, is open to all Nigerians, regardless of ethnicity, gender, religion. Now, there is a common denominator for membership. If you want to be a member, so long as you have a shared dream of a peaceful, prosperous, and stable Nigeria, you are welcome to be a member of the NPM. I told you about their slogan, prosperity for all. Today, this National Prosperity Movement is hosting the National Unity Forum. What is it about? Now, the goal of the National Unity Summit is to provide a national platform for illustrious Nigerians from all walks of life and representing diverse interests and groups to have a meaningful, take that, meaningful conversation on the themes of peace, unity, equity, and nation building. This is expedient at this time when there is increasing irredentism and hate crimes across the country, which appears to be found by the rising intolerance, nepotism, and mutual suspicion across the nation's social and political space. The NPM believes that we Nigerians gathered in this hall, and indeed our friend also from outside Nigeria who believes in Nigeria, reason why he's here. All of us can have a productive dialogue about these emotive issues in a rational manner. Rational manner. Devoid of the counter-accusations that have lately characterized national conversations, and arrive at the need for unity and believe in the future prospect of our country. Today's conversation, ladies and gentlemen, is primed to help provide a new perspective to the issues of equality, issues of inclusion, and economic prosperity for Nigerians. So that at the end of the dialogue, at the end of it all, let's not just be talking. Let's take away something. And NPM is saying that at the end of the dialogue today, the conversations we have here, the conversations we are going to be having here, will help to stimulate the process of national healing, understanding, and progress. So you say, so help me God. I didn't hear you. That's why we're here. So if there's anything out of this, we are not here. You're only seeing our images. We've come to have conversations. And let me say this to you. In any room you see the likes of Professor Jega, the former INEC chairman, the Sultan of Sokoto, who is ably represented today, and most of the other guests, you know that we have come to speak truth. to realities. We have come to say it as it is. There will be no pretenses here. We'll put the hammer on the nail's head and drive it. I don't think there's any single Nigerian who is not disturbed about where we are going. And so let's have this discussion, ladies and gentlemen. May I now go into the program as it is? The man I am going to be inviting now was a former commissioner for information and strategy at Adamawa State. He is a public commentator. This gentleman believes that Nigeria will fare better together as one nation, as against breaking up. And this much he said sometime in June this year, as he held and fielded answered questions thrown at him from the NOW crew, that's News Agency of Nigeria crew in Maiduguri. He said at that occasion, separation may not serve the best interest of anyone. We must appreciate God's purpose in putting us together. Nigeria is better together. So it's not surprising that this gentleman is the one who is leading the national prosperity movement today. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as I invite to give the welcome address the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer, Future Now International, the parent of the National Prosperity Movement, Mr. Ahmad Sajoh. Is that how you clap for him? Thank you.
Thank you very much. For 1 minute, I thought I was not the one you were talking about. I'm just a simple Nigerian, an ordinary Nigerian like every other Nigerian. The chairman of the occasion, my own dear father, man I have tremendous respect for. The former chairman of INEC, a professor at Bayero University, Kano, a former president of ASU, a man who stands all the times for what is right. We are very, very proud to have you here. I always say we are from the same town because I'm from Mubi, you are from Mubi. Jega, you just be a Jega. I know you as a Mubi person and I'm proud of you for that. I am very proud to receive His Royal Highness the Sultan. Up until 1 or 2 days ago, the Sultan had promised that he would be here personally. But I think when exigencies of his office did not allow him to come, he looked around among all the royal fathers that could represent him, and he looked for a scholar, an academic, and a man who holds exactly the same views about Nigeria's unity as the Sultan. He sent in the Emir of Kefi. Your Royal Highness, we are very, very proud to receive you here. I have just been told that the special guest of honor, His Excellency Governor John Kayode Fayemi, the chairman, Nigerian Governors Forum, the man the president called the Governor General, is on his way. He will soon be here, and we will be very proud to receive him. I am very proud to receive so many array of guests. I can see my dear brother, Malam Bolaji Abdullahi. The last time we saw was quite some time, but I'm very proud to receive you, sir. I've seen members of House of Reps here present, distinguished senators here present. I've seen a very powerful delegation from Ekiti State. My brothers from Ekiti, we are proud of you. You're all welcome. But let me say that first and foremost, I am happy with the number of women from all over the place and the number of youth that have answered our call. Women of Nigeria, oye! Women of Nigeria, oye! Oye! Thank you very much. The young people, the nation belongs to you. When we talk about uniting this nation and having a prosperous nation, we're talking about bequeathing a prosperous nation to you. That's why the ambience of this hall, we have green, white, green to represent Nigeria, our unity, and we have the gold colors to tell you we're talking about prosperity in this hall. Greatest of the greatest Nigerian youth, greatest of the greatest Nigerian youth, are you great? Thank you very much. You're welcome. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's with a great sense of commitment and belief in a strong, united, peaceful, and prosperous Nigeria that the National Prosperity Movement welcomes you to this important summit. The compelling force for this meeting is our strong conviction that as a society, we are greater than our present challenges. We also believe that it is only through meaningful and engaging conversations that we can begin the process of national reconciliation, healing, and progress. Let me make it very, very clear that we are by no means trivializing or minimizing the challenges we face as a nation. We know they are there, they are great, they are daunting. Indeed, our problems are real and numerous. Daily, we are confronted by the issue of extreme poverty, shrinking opportunities, and widening social inequalities, among the very many challenges we face. Unfortunately for us, responses to these identified challenges have been varied, but frankly, insufficient. This has encouraged many citizens to resort to irredentism and micronationalism as their response to the situation we find ourselves as a country. At the other very, very extreme end are some Nigerians who have taken to criminality, including terrorist activities and insurgency, as their response to the prevailing circumstances. And when you ask them why they're doing it, they say there is poverty. We don't believe that the poverty is a sufficient reason to take up arms and begin to terrorize other law-abiding citizens. The net effect of all the negative responses is the weakening of our structure as a nation, which has resulted in loss of confidence in our continued existence as one country and the erosion of citizens' belief in the efficacy of democracy as a governance model. It is in consideration of all these existing, perceived, and real-life challenges that we at the National Prosperity Movement feel the need to host a constructive dialogue. We believe that a conversation of this nature could provide a roadmap towards finding an acceptable means of restoring confidence in the polity. It is our understanding that a chain is only as strong or as weak as the strength of its constituent links. Thus, Nigeria's strength is dependent on the aggregate strength of the subnational entities of the Federation. It is for this reason that we have invited the leaders of the subnational groupings to contribute to the search for a viable roadmap to creating a Nigeria that works for every citizen. Our choice of the chairman is an elder statesman who has a history of defending the corporate existence of this country with his life as a military man. He did so on very many occasions, including the Nigerian Civil War. The royal father of the day, also a former military man, has been at the forefront of promoting dialogue and understanding among Nigerians. The keynote speaker and the resource persons were all carefully selected, taking into consideration their previous patriotic contributions to the unity and peaceful coexistence of Nigeria. Mr. Chairman, sir, Your Excellencies, Your Royal Highness, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me end this welcome address with a quotation from our special guest of honor, His Excellency Dr. John Kayode Fayemi, who said, and I quote him, "I am convinced that the problems we are called upon to address and redress in building a better country are not beyond our grasp to tackle." This is at the heart of this summit. On that note, let me warmly welcome you to this historic National Unity Summit and pray that God Almighty presides over this gathering. Thank you very much, and may God bless each and every one of you. Before I step down, let me apologize. You know, when you can offend your wife and you still apologize to her and she accepts. The printer's devil mistakenly put the name of somebody on my brother's wife's name. You know, instead of, you see the picture of Dr. Amina Salihu, but you see the name of a different person on that picture. Madam, we are indeed very sorry. We apologize and we respectfully hope that you will forgive that error. We call it printer's devil in our profession, and I think it's indeed the printer's devil. Thank you very much.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, can we be upstanding a little bit as we welcome our special guest of honor, the Executive Governor of Ekiti State, and the servant leader, the chief servant of the governors in Nigeria, and that is the chairman of Nigeria's Governors Forum, Dr. John Kayode Fayemi, Executive Governor of Ekiti State. You're welcome, sir, Your Excellency. So, Your Excellency, before you came in, we had made some progress. We had introduced our guests. We had talked about what we are gathered here for. We had indeed moved the program, Your Excellency, and the Executive Director of National Prosperity Movement just finished his welcome address. So, Your Excellency, one more time, you're welcome. We progress. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, we have talked about our chairman, but let me take you again to him. The chairman of today's event is Ibrahim Bata Maragwai Haruna, OFR, retired general. He is known as IBM Haruna for short. Now, this man you are looking at there was among the first 30 recruits. Hear this, first 30 recruits enrolled into the boys' company that later became the Nigerian Military School way back in 1954. You clapped? Now, IBM was commissioned into the Nigerian Army in 1961, and he rose gradually but steadily to the enviable height of a major general, while holding very key positions and commands in the Army as he moved along, until 1977, when he finally retired. But the gentleman you are seeing was also the Federal Commissioner for Information and Culture. Hear this. It's this same gentleman that established the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA. You clapped. And that was back in 1975. He didn't stop. He also established the News Agency of Nigeria. You clapped again. Now, our chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, is a solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court. He is a notary public of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Management. Let me stop there. He has a powerful profile that can take us and take us and take us. But you must also hear that he was the chairman of Arewa Consultative Forum, ACF, between 2009 to 2012. And most importantly, our chairman today, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, holds the traditional title of Walin Garkida. You're welcome, sir. So having done that, having taken you to our chairman, should I bring you the mic there, sir, or for your opening remarks? You're coming here. I told you, he's not tired. Don't imagine that at all. Mr. Chairman, sir, your opening remarks. I don't know if the guy on the deck will always fill up with sound when people are walking up like this, please. So, no, sir, this way, sir. Please. Please put your hands together for him. He showed it. He showed it.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope we are still in the morning. I would easily say I stand by the established protocol started by the Master of Ceremony. But I must do at least the minimum that is deemed to be right in recognizing His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, represented by Royal Father, the Emir of Kebbi. Recognize Your Excellency. Let me say my own welcome. You were first welcomed in absentia. Welcome to our midst. I recognize all the other excellencies, distinguished senators, able legislators from the various houses, and above all, our mothers that are here, the mothers of our Nigeria today and of Nigeria of tomorrow. You are welcome. I deeply appreciate your presence because I'm sure the good things we'll carry here will flow in the veins of future Nigerians. May I also recognize our youth. Where are you, our youth, the great youth? If you want to recognize yourself, please say you are here. Thank you very much. Youth, the youth. When I was a youth like you, I started my boys' company in 1954. I was 14. But today we have youths that are 55 or more. May I also, by way of recognizing and eulogizing my soldiers in the information field, I never forget you as your minister some 40-something years ago. and to compliment you for your presence and the able complementary things you are doing in moving Nigeria forward. And God bless the fourth ring. I welcome each and everyone. I recognize each and everyone. May I start the ball rolling by perhaps mentioning few matters in retrospect, which have to do with our yearning for unity and many other things. Now, looking back to the various cliches and mantras seeking to promote our unity and strength, we can recall some few high marks. Those of us who have laid our lives to preserve the integrity of the Nigerian nation know that at the end of that painful 30 months of civil war, we were told, I was still a soldier, I had to obey command, not negotiate it. We were told we settled for no victor, no vanquished, by our leader, General Yakubu Gowon. So that was our marching spirit from 1970. Up to this date, where we are now experiencing change mantra since 2015 under the democratic governance of President Buhari. We know that we got there through programs like the National Economic Empowerment Needs of President Sajoh, the transformation era of President Yaradua and President Jonathan. We had a short spell in democratic experience after the military dictatorship of succeeded by President Shehu Shagari's democratic regime, which was terminated in 1982 by a military regime by General Buhari, who in his time ushered in war against impunity, morality, indiscipline, and corruption. It was short-lived, and then came in series of military dictatorship, right up to when General Abacha's regime did foresaw the possibility of being ruled democratically, and by 1999 Constitution, democracy was ushered in. However, we have noticed that in spite of the change mantra and the democratic dispensation, we have come in an environment of insecurity, corruption, economic uncertainty, unpredictability of our political and social development, tortured by the social incoherence of objectives of our state, and the confusion brought about by those desiring self-determination, limitless and elasticity, like having a perfect union. Well, we have had these experiences, and we do ask, what is it in it for we Nigerians, for all citizens? That is the question we must seek to answer and validate our search for long life of prosperity for all. We believe that we can have a productive dialogue, discussions about these issues or experiences in a rational manner, and having objectives, examining our experiences critically without violence. We seek and need for the unity and have faith in the future prospects of our country, in which there is peace, security, justice, and equality before the law. This conversation, hopefully, will help us provide new perspectives and narratives on issues of justice, equity, inclusiveness, economic prosperity for all Nigerians. We hope we will help to stimulate the process of national reconciliation, healing, understanding, and progress towards a better administration and result-oriented Federal Republic of Nigeria. So help us God. God is the creator of diversity and differences in the universe and everywhere, not us. We have not created our differences or our diversity, but we seek to create differences amongst us, not recognizing that the God who has made us, all of humanity, has made us differently. Different races, different languages, different colors, different heights, so on and so forth. And we may ask why. Because those who have faith in God believe that He has created us in a diverse world to seek understanding amongst ourselves and to grow in humanity and to believe in our body and soul and biology. We are made of different genes and DNA, and which each one of us carry in ourselves experiences and years of generations we don't know. We have not learned about them. And we will pass on ours to those who may not live long enough to know. So our challenge is that we should create prosperity. In prosperity and in humanity, we will find unity in all that we do and amongst ourselves. And it only means we remain different, but we are united in those values. And we grow a generation succeeding us, respecting those values. So help us, God, that we have a positive dialogue that will help us march on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Fallout, sir. Permission granted. He was asking me if I could give him permission to fall out. Who am I not to give him? Did you feel what I felt as he talked? Very touching, almost sad that elder statesmen like this, at their age, will still be begging us, still be telling us to unite. God will help us. Permit me to very quickly before we go to the next, I hope very quickly to just recognize some of the people in the hall here. Barrister Kashim Mustafa Haruna, NPM Coordinator, Borno State, we understand you're here, welcome. Alhaji Shaibu Abdurrahman, NPM Coordinator, Gombe State, welcome, sir. Mustafa Ibrahim Zango, NPM State Coordinator, Katsina State, you are here in numbers. Why not? Ilyasu Abdullahi, NPM Coordinator, Jigawa State, you're here. Honorable Chinyere Ike, you're here as well. Honorable Chief Paul Omotosho, APC Chairman, Ekiti State, you're here with us. Comrade Mohammed Abba Issa, Yobe State NPM Coordinator, and also APC Zonal Physically Challenged Leader. I'd like to recognize you. I'd like to recognize you. The efforts he made to be here. Please put your hands together for this gentleman. He's been in this hall since something like 8 o'clock. Yeah, welcome. Honorable Abubakar Nababanyawo. I'll come and learn how to pronounce this name. NPM Coordinator, Kaduna State. So we have you here. Our introductions, like I did say before, will be a continuous process. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we progress. We're just going to be having a keynote address. But before we do, follow me. Let's get to know again the gentleman, the distinguished Nigerian who's going to be delivering the keynote address. Professor Tahiru Muhammad Jega, mostly known as a former INEC chairman, whom majority of the Senate Nigerians say did very well in his time on the job between 2010 and 2015. But let me tell you a little more. He is a thoroughbred academic and very, very intense discussant. Professor Tahiru Jega was one time the Vice Chancellor of Bayero University, Kano. He was a former president of Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, ASUM, and is still on record that he remains, till this day, the only INEC chairman that has successfully conducted 2 very successful elections in this country. Bring it up, bring it up, bring it up for him. Now, his conduct of the very hotly contested 2015 election was adjudged by most Nigerians in the world as largely free and fair. He remains an astute intellectual with a strong sense of ethics and morality. Professor Jega is known to always fire salvos as he makes very informed and generally non-biased comments regarding events in the polity. Today, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the erudite professor is fittingly the one chosen by the NPM to deliver the keynote address in this all-important national summit. Would you now join me? Put your hands together, jam it if possible. Let's welcome this very distinguished Nigerian, Professor Atahiru Jega. You are in for a lecture, definitely. Get out your pens, get out your notebooks, write, write, and write. Professor Jega, sir, good to see you.
Thank you very much. The chairman of today's occasion, our distinguished and revered General IBM Haruna, our guest of honor, Governor Kayode Fayemi, representative of His Eminence the Sultan, the Emir of Kefi, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I stand on the existing protocol. I wish to express my thanks and appreciation to the organizers of today's event, the National Prosperity Movement, for giving me this opportunity to deliver the keynote address. I commend them for organizing this summit on this very important theme of the imperative of unity in our country. Unity is very important for national progress and development in every nation state. And unity is something that we have to give serious attention to for our country to progress and to develop. I have a very short presentation. And by way of introduction, I begin by saying that national unity is a desirable goal for all nations, but especially for diverse nations for progress and development. If attained, national unity strengthens a nation to pursue collective aspirations and to progress and to develop. National unity presupposes that citizens of a country voluntarily establish bonds and cooperate and work together in harmony in spite of differences for collective societal progress, sustainability, and reproduction. National unity, however, is not easy to have, especially in very diverse countries such as Nigeria, essentially due to ethno-linguistic differences and social and religious identities, which ordinarily foster and bolster what one scholar calls prejudice and obstinacy, and which are susceptible to mobilization and manipulation by ethno-religious elite and the mismanagement by incompetent or parochial leaders. So in very diverse contexts, such as ours in Nigeria, national unity has to be deliberately forged, nurtured, and entrenched through citizenship mobilization, sensitization, and education, as well as through policies and programs for actualizing the goal of unity in diversity and national integration. There is in present-day Nigeria evidence of remarkable erosion of national unity and seeming whittling down, if not abandonment, of the yesteryear's lofty projects of national integration. The resurgence of and the violent activism by insurgents and irredentist militants with a clear agenda for the dismemberment of Nigeria is indicative of the sorry state of national unity in our country presently. So is the increasing indifferent and apathetic disposition of teeming youth with regards to serious national affairs, which ordinarily would require their active engagement. Indeed, regrettably, many young and women are so frustrated with dashed expectations that they are diverting their energies to aggressive behavior and creativity to all sorts of criminality. Indeed, some of them have even given up on Nigeria and are merely looking for opportunities to check out. This situation needs to be effectively and decisively addressed. The imperative of national unity is of such importance that if the challenges are allowed to undermine it, then obviously the country will continue to muddle through its challenges and have constrained progress and development. But I think it's important to also examine what I call the historical context as to why we are where we are today with regards to national unity. I suppose we will all remember that Nigeria has been searching for and grappling with the question of national unity since its formation with the 1914 amalgamation by British colonial rulers. The British colonial rulers came to the realization that administering the conquered and subjugated territories as separate colony and protectorates was not cost effective. Even after amalgamation and the formation of Nigeria, managing the vast territory as relatively autonomous grouping of provinces into regions was problematic and unsatisfactory. Hence, through one of a series of constitutional enactments under colonial rule, in 1954, under the Macpherson's Constitution, the British turned Nigeria into a federation for easier management of diversity, because globally, federalism is used as a method for management of diversity and forging what is called unity in diversity. So they turned Nigeria into a federation by the reality on the ground, but especially by their own careful calculations about how it can better advance their own interests as a colonial master in this conquered, very diverse territory called Nigeria. Indeed, the creation of Nigeria as a federation was meant to forge unity in diversity, which is a core objective of modern federations, but at that time to advance the particularistic interests of the colonial rulers. Now, newly independent Nigeria's rulers after 1960, when Nigeria became independent, and in the immediate post-independence period, with their political basis ensconced in relatively autonomous regions, seem to have busied themselves more with forgetting or trying to understand their differences rather than concretely forging national unity in diversity. There are these stories, I don't know how many of you may have heard of them, about an engagement between the late Vic and the late Ahmad Bello. It was said that at one time when they met, Zik told Ahmad Bello, "Let us forget our differences." And Ahmad Bello responded, "No, let us understand our differences." So basically, that period of mutual fears and suspicions, which were also engendered by colonial divide and rule tactics, was a period, I believe, and I argue, in which they were basically, as leaders, preoccupied with either trying to forget the differences or trying to understand the differences rather than working together and forging unity and forging harmony in diversity for progress and advancement of the nascent country that had just got independence. So within each region, as there are individual areas of influence, within each region, as there are individual areas of influence, they forged unity. One North, one people, and building the identity of the Yorubas or the Igbos in each of these regions. But while nurturing united regional identity and creating a regional sense of belonging, they were doing this more, I argue, much more than creating a national sense of belonging and unity in a country called Nigeria. Now, this was the situation in which the military now came into the sphere of political governance in our country. And the phenomenon of military rule initially threatened and almost destroyed whatever sense or perception of national unity or unity in diversity existed. As we all know, leading to the 1967 to 1970, the 30 months civil war, of course, with devastating consequences, some of which we still live with. However, after the civil war, the then military rulers paid significant attention to not only the popularized notion of reconciliation, rehabilitation, and reconstruction in the war-devastated areas, but also and especially trying to now forge national unity after the civil war and pushing programs and projects of unity in diversity and national integration. For example, they introduced notable programs and projects such as the National Youth Service Corps Scheme, which we are all aware of, and many of us in this room who are graduates have participated in it and will have memories and lessons to cherish from our moving from our own areas of comfort into other parts of the country and the culture and living there for a year and learning a lot, making lifelong friends, with whom we share aspirations of a united common Nigeria. And the NYSC scheme was a scheme in which tertiary education graduates are posted out of their states of origin or even regions for 1 year of compulsory national service so that they can live in other areas, learn other cultures and traditions, establish enduring friendships and relationships, and help accelerate the goal of national integration. In addition, the military regimes established federal government colleges as well as federal colleges of arts and sciences for A-level studies, which enable lower tier students to also travel to, live and study in areas other than their own, learn about the cultures of others, cultures other than their own, and even learn some languages, all with the aim of forging national unity and integration. These were lofty programs and projects which certainly in the immediate post-Civil War period were necessary and which have helped to create and nurture a sense of national belonging and unity in diversity. However, other programs and policies of many of the military regimes have also laid the foundation for heightened mutual suspicions and fears, and even in many respects, the erosion of national unity and the integration. So really, military rule was a mixed bag. On the one hand, they may have, after the Civil War, helped to engender a sense of national belonging through some of those programs and projects, but on the other, the totality of their rule and some of the strategies and tactics that they used to remain in power also went a long way to create divisions and to undermine unity and national integration. For example, the introduction of the federal character principle in employment in the federal service and the quota system of admissions into tertiary institutions, although these were undergirded by the lofty principles of affirmative action and the advancement of equality of opportunity, given the manner in which they were executed, they created ethno-religious and regional tensions and even animosities based on actual as well as perceptions of exclusion, discrimination, and marginalization, resulting in significant erosion of national sense of belonging and national unity. In any case, the attention paid to the question of national unity and the integration by successive military regimes has not been matched, very regrettably, by successive civilian administrations. Except for sloganeering, for example, in the Third Republic, when the Shehu Shagari, as NPM's presidential candidate and subsequently as president, popularized the slogan of one nation, one destiny. Subsequent civilian administrations, especially since their return to power in 1999, seem to have more or less presided over the undermining, if not destruction, of the bases and foundations of national unity and integration in our country. This is largely on account of either the self-serving objectives which elected leaders pursue in governance, or the mobilization of religion and ethnicity and all sorts of primordial identities in order to divide the people while they continue to control and corner the resources of this country. To be sure, national unity can only be predicated on mutual trust and understanding, as well as reciprocal friendly, brotherly, sisterly relations, as well as shared interests, values, and aspirations. National unity would only best be promoted through tolerance and accommodation of each other's differences or opinions or ethnic, religious, and communal or even regional identities. At the core of national unity are non-discriminatory relations, whether at the personal or official levels. And the third thing is that in contemporary Nigeria, all of these are in their short supply by either deliberate actions or inactions of politicians and so-called leaders in elective positions, or by incompetence and cluelessness in terms of how to address these burning issues of national unity. So currently, the major threats to national unity as well as national security could be summarized as follows: negative mobilization of ethno-religious and other primordial identities in order to support personal ambitions, political ambitions of so-called leaders, especially in their contestations for power in electoral politics. Secondly, and in relation to this, deployment of hate speeches which are targeted at perceived others in what is generally called an us versus them categorizations. Thirdly, reckless peddling of misinformation and fake news to demonize perceived opponents And the social media now provides fertile ground for that kind of reckless misuse of information. 4, giving primacy to indigents over citizenship rights in state and local governance. And I think this is a very, very important issue that in Nigeria we are not paying attention to, and is something that really goes a long way to undermine, obstruct, if not destroy, the foundations of national unity and integration in our country. I will come back to say a little bit about this. 5, dangerous, if not genocidal narratives, particularly in recent times, emanating from the perennial farmer-herder conflicts, and all sorts of narratives of us versus them has emerged, some of them based on reality of what has been happening on the ground, but most of them through mobilization of ethnicity and religion to further create divisions for self-serving objectives. And of course, 6, the phenomenon of Boko Haram insurgency and the devastation it has wreaked on the country, both in real destruction and damages, as well as in the way and manner in which it has affected the psyche of Nigerians on the issue of religious divisions. And 7, and lastly, irredentist militancy, particularly in the Southeast and the Southwest geopolitical zones, where some active mobilization is going on by some groups for what they call independence, but what actually will translate into the dismemberment of the country. So Nigeria, regrettably, operates a distorted and dysfunctional form of federalism, which rather than forging unity in diversity, has created many contradictions which are actually undermining unity in diversity. This negative trend needs to be reversed, but it can only be done by having elected leaders who are democrats and not militicians, who understand what the value of operating a functional rather than a dysfunctional federal arrangement is, who value peace, stability, progress, and development of a country. That means who have an enlightened self-interest and not a narrow vision and preoccupation with the advancement of their personal selfish interests, and who have the ability, the capacity, the competence, as well as the integrity to drive good democratic governance in our country. Currently, governance in Nigeria at all levels, federal, state, and local, is bad, is very bad. It's self-serving, is not predicated on constitutionalism or the rule of law, because the rule of law is selectively applied, and in general, the needs and the aspirations of citizens are undermined deliberately. And it's very, very important that we pay attention to how to reverse this. It is worthy of restating that Nigeria is currently craving for repositioning of leadership recruitment process by political parties, such that we bring into the electoral and governance arenas honest, selfless people with requisite integrity and competence to decisively move the country forward in all ramifications, but especially on a trajectory towards what I call good democratic governance. That is what would be a panacea for our federal as well as overall, for addressing our federal as well as overall governance challenges. And that can pave way for citizens' sense of belonging and inclusive participation, all of which would enhance national unity and peaceful coexistence. So, the imperative of forging unity in diversity. Unity in diversity is a core principle of federalism, as I have mentioned earlier on, and it has served many other federal countries well. So why can't it serve Nigeria well? And I argue it's because of the recklessness of our ruling elite and the narrow vision with which they engage in the pursuit of their personal interests in the public arena. So all federations are required to adhere to and actively nurture and entrench expectations associated with this core principle of national unity or unity in diversity. Nigeria is a federation with a complex mosaic of diversity, need to continue to find and deploy ways and the means of forging, entrenching, and sustaining unity in diversity and national integration beyond sloganeering, lip service by leaders in governance positions at all levels. Elected national leaders in particular need to walk the talk of national unity and integration through their personal examples and through the formulation and the execution of sustainable policies, programs, and projects on national unity and integration. We need to reinforce those commendable projects which have served us well, which were introduced under military rule, and we need to create even more in order to advance unity and national integration in our country. Nigeria's stability, peaceful coexistence, and sustainability as a federation would depend on how purposefully, effectively, and seriously these are done under the direction and leadership, of course, of very focused, competent, and visionary leaders. To bring this about, perhaps a few recommendations are pertinent. As a starting point, there must be a solid commitment by elected leaders at all levels to uphold, protect, and defend the rule of law. All citizens must be seen to be equal before the law in every part of our country. In particular, elected leaders must uphold the constitutional provisions pertaining to citizenship rights and ensure that all citizens have equal rights wherever they may reside in Nigeria. State governors in particular must not in any way discriminate against any citizen and must not prioritize so-called indigent rights over citizenship rights. A qualification for residency may perhaps be introduced in accordance with the best practices in federations globally. For example, once a citizen of Nigeria moves into any other state and becomes a resident and a taxpayer in that state for a specifically determined number of years, 3 years or 5 years maximum, he or she should be entitled to the rights and the obligations of every other citizen in that state, regardless of indigenous status. Doing this would create and entrench the requisite sense of belonging and increase the scope of national unity and engender peaceful coexistence. We can debate about how to do it, what is the time frame, what will be the steps and measures to take, but ultimately, if we want to have a good functional federal system and a good country with unity in diversity, we must address this issue of citizenship rights and the way in which they are undermined by the notions which are unconstitutional of indigenship rights. Then our elected leaders have to focus attention on improving our federal system for greater functionality and effectiveness and sustainability, with additional programs and projects which can not only build upon earlier national integration projects, but also expand their scope. This can be done, and I have been advocating recently that it is possible, for example, to pluck what I call low-hanging fruits on the issue of restructuring, and our country can move even before 2023, and then we can also build upon that subsequently. There are 2 papers, no time to go into that, which I have provided as references for those who are interested in pursuing the discussion on that. Other things that are recommended to be done so as to nurture and entrench national unity, integration, and sustainable peace and stability include: 1, focused and targeted programs of primary in-school socialization and reorientation. These need to be introduced and sustained. Core national values should be taught and indoctrinated in pupils and students quite early in schools, catching them young, as is a famous phrase. The teaching of civics has to be reconceptualized, as well as the good aspects of our histories and traditions, which should be revived and improved upon in the teaching of civics. There was a time in this country when books on civics in our primary and secondary schools were actually written by military officers, you know, and you wonder how you can teach civics, you know, with books written by people who have an authoritarian disposition and mentality. You know, so we have to pay serious attention to civics. Countries that have progressed actually pay significant attention to that. As people grow up, as pupils in schools, in secondary schools, by the time they finish high school, they already know what it means to be a citizen, what the rights of our citizens are, what the obligations of our citizens are, and what the good aspects of our history, of their history and culture is, and how they can then add value in their lives and careers to progress and developments of their countries. We don't seem to do any of those in our country. Civics is just seen as a subject taught for students to pass exams, but it is not. So we need to take it with the seriousness that it deserves. Secondly, apart from focusing in formal civic education and reorientation, our programs of national reorientation of citizens' attitudes and mindsets should also be re-strategized and carefully developed and implemented on a continuous, sustainable way. Such institutions as the National Orientation Agency or other agencies that states or local governments may establish need to be reformed and repositioned to design and implement these programs in collaboration with media outlets and other civil society organizations. A fundamental reorientation is required in this country. In 32 years of military rule, even though we've returned to democracy for 21 years, there are still fundamental legacies of military authoritarian rule in our interpersonal relationships as well as in official relations. And you cannot build democracy without democrats. And you can only have democrats if there is serious reorientation of all citizens, from the younger ones to the elderly ones. That is how to forge national unity and how to bring about national integration. Thirdly, we also need to begin to focus attention again on citizenship and leadership training and mentorship programs, as well as apprentices schemes for youth who should be trained and guided as the future leaders of tomorrow. You know, I recall as a secondary school student in Form 2, you know, during the long vacation period, many of us were taken from all over the then northwestern state and were taken to Kotarkoshi, and we spent 3 weeks of intensive leadership training and the physical activities, including climbing that enormous Kotarkoshi hill. Those have lasting impact and impression on impressionistic minds of the youth, and it adds value to our progress and development as human beings. And we don't seem to be doing that in Nigeria. It used to be that students will be taken to Shere Hills. Increasingly, these things are not even happening. Even if they are happening, you know, they are happening either haphazardly or incompetently. So really, there are things that others do which helps them as nations that are developing, which we also need to pay attention to. And of course, there are other things that we do. Now, our young men will go to school, get certificates, not get jobs to do because they either have no skills or they have no jobs under employment. You know, meanwhile, there are many other youth there who are even having difficulties in terms of getting the education that they all deserve to get. You know, so, but there is a way in which you can also do leadership recruitment, good practice, which other countries do. Students, normally during vacations or long periods, there are apprentices schemes, even in governance, and that's how you begin to train young men and women for leadership positions. So we keep telling our youth, you are the leaders of tomorrow, you are the leaders of tomorrow. Sloganeering, but in substantive sense, nothing actually is done. So these are a few recommendations that we can pick and begin to utilize because they don't really amount to much, but their impact will be phenomenal in terms of how we can strengthen national unity and national integration and how we can have peace and peaceful coexistence and stability so that our country can develop. In conclusion, I said that there is no doubt that given the imperative of unity in diversity, unity in diverse federal systems, and in particular, the current dysfunctional nature of the Nigerian Federation, patriotic Nigerians have an obligation to strategically identify effective ways and means of forging national unity in diversity so as to restore stability, enhance peaceful coexistence, and sustain socioeconomic as well as democratic development in our country. And I say that this is a task that must be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Bring it up, bring it up, bring it up, bring it up, bring it up for Prof. Thank you, Prof. You wouldn't have expected less from Professor Atahiru Jega. You know who he is, and he has done it again. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have to now move faster down where we are moving. Problem usually is we don't come on time, and when we come, we want to leave on time. We come late and we want to leave on time. Let me quickly, very, very quickly, while I'm doing that, the Amigo Cultural Troupe, please stand by. Let me very quickly run through some guests that we have here. Honorable Chinedu Elemwo, Southeast Coordinator, NPM. Paul Ockright, former British High Commissioner. I see you, sir. He came to listen and make sure he hears the truth too. His Royal Highness Eze Enoch Onwudiwe Eze Udo Apo. Welcome, sir. Honorable Febisola Adewale, Commissioner, Ekiti State Local Government Service Commission. All right. Chief Samuel Adewumi Abejide, Coordinator, Ekiti State. Welcome, sir. Honorable Abubakar Bawa Buhari, former Minister, Mines, Steel, and Power Development. Honorable Abubakar Bawa Buhari. All right. His Royal Highness Ezigbo Asokoro, Abuja FCT. Are you here, sir? We are going to do that very quickly. We must recognize you since you're here. Professor Adebayo is our panelist. Bashorun Olugbenga, Fajona, Chairman, Sofa Group of Companies. Is he here? All right. Mr. Bimbo Ogundikbe, Ricabim Industry. Are you here? Welcome, sir. All right. His Royal Majesty, Igwe Dr. A.C. Ono, Ambassador MBP, the Orie Ihite One of Ihite, Ezini Ihite, Imo State. Orie Ihite One of Ihite. I like that. Honorable Apollos JDL, Taraba State NPM Coordinator, Dr. IBB Okafor, NPM Coordinator, Imo State. His Royal Highness Udo Dr. Uche Egenti, MON. Chairman Igbo Traditional Rulers in FCT, that's who he is. Board Chairman, Nigeria Building and Road Research Institute. Ezudo, where are you, sir? Israel? All right, thank you. Now, let's also welcome through Mrs. Gloria Ikejemba, the FCT women. Kelono. Ndine mama. Oh yeah, now make some noise, make some noise, make some noise. Let's know you're here. All right. His Royal Highness, I've called this again to Vice Chairman, Intertribal Traditional Leaders of Nigeria, Wakili Igbo FCT. That's His Royal Highness Dr. Uche Egenti, member of the Niger. Igwe of Ezinihite, Esiono we have introduced to. Eze Chijoke R. Nzama, Ezibo one of Asokoro we have. Deputy President of Hanis Indibo we have. You are all welcome. You are indeed welcome. We appreciate you. Your Excellency, the Governor of Ekiti State, our special guest of honor, our Chairman, General IBM Haruna retired, Professor Jega, the guest speaker, Your Royal Highness, that is representing the Emir, the Sultan of Sokoto, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let's just for 3 minutes wake you up, because we know that you took in Professor Jega's delivery. You need to also be up. Now we invite a cultural group to do a 3-minute thing, and they are, where is it again? The Amigo Cultural Troupe, 3 minutes. While that is happening, our panelists will be getting ready, please. Yeah.
Ohun wa ni là ń gbé lárugẹ. 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 Nàìjíríà ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ ṣe o. Nàìjíríà ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ ṣe. Ìlú olókìkí nílùú wa o. Nàìjíríà o. Nàìjíríà kàṣíkù wákẹ́yà. Nigeria kusomu adake. Nigeria oh, Nigeria.
Short and sharp. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you. Honorable Adoye Ariba Soye, member Ekiti State House of Assembly, we greet you. I'd like to tell you, this program is live on NTA. Do you know they are seeing your faces all over Nigeria? So if you are sleeping, wake up. They are seeing your faces all over Nigeria. Kudos to NTA. We appreciate you, NTA, as if they know that their founder is here. General, sir, your boys are working up to now. Thank you, NTA. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we now begin to deepen the conversation today. We want to go to the panel session where panel beaters, you know, the kind of panel beaters we're assembling today are panel beaters who will panel beat the discussion and make sense out of it. So we're going to be introducing our panelists. And because we don't have so much time again, we did some research on them. We wanted you to meet them very well, but it's fine. We took care, the DG had told you that they took their time to, you know, assemble these panelists. And so probably I'm going to do the last thing first, or the first thing last. I'm going to introduce the chairman last. Chairman, permit me to do that. I have my reason. I'm going to introduce the chairman last because once the chairman comes, he starts. So let me introduce the other members of the panel, and each and every one of them will sit, but the chairman is going to be at the center, please, so you know. Dr. Emeka Nwosu, political activist and author. You know what to do. That's why I've kept the entertainment. I've kept it away since. You know what to do. It's up to you to clap. Dr. Emeka Nwosu, please. Ushers, where are you? Where are you, ushers? Make them feel like, thank you. That one is for Dr. Emeka Nwosu. Thanks. Dr. Emeka Nwosu is going to be speaking around building a nation and engendering a culture of political tolerance. I know him. I know him personally, and I know he's going to do a good job delivering that topic. Professor Bayo Olukoshi is our next panelist. Professor Olukoshi, are you sleeping? Thank you. Professor Olukoshi, just as he steps up, will be dealing with the nexus between economic prosperity and peace. Nexus between economic prosperity and peace. Thank you, sir. Amina Salihu of MacArthur Foundation. Amina Salihu of MacArthur Foundation. Is she here? Okay. Amina Salihu of the MacArthur Foundation will be talking on social investment and addressing social inequality. You're welcome. And then we have Miss Ene Ede, a social activist and progressive, who will be dealing on promoting equity, fairness, justice, and inclusion. She's the one I designated an associate prof here because of her hair. Yes, you're welcome, Ma. And so let me now call on the chairman of the chair. Chairman of the panel, Professor Jidofo Adibe from the Nasarawa State University, to now come give his introductory remarks. You see why I saved the best for the last? He will give his introductory remarks and then go on to handle the panel. Prof.
Yeah, good day, ladies and gentlemen. Please permit us to sit on existing protocols, not stand, because we are sitting on existing protocols. Professor Jega has already done a lot of justice to the theme. He raised a number of very vital questions. And the role of the panelist here is to focus on smaller bits of what he raised and probably raise further questions. In addition to what Professor Jega has said, I just felt that it may be very important for us to also reflect on some of the concepts we are taking for granted. When we really talk about this nation building, what precisely do we mean? What is the interface between patriotism and this nation building? Because quite often we hear ourselves saying, please, let's be patriotic, let's keep emotions apart. But we do know that patriotism, that's just like unity that Prof kept talking about, they are not neutral. They are not independent of the contestations for power by the different ethnic, regional, and religious factions of our political elite. In other words, anytime you talk about unity, there is a particular power configuration that sustains it. So that quite often those who we call unity or patriotism entrepreneurs, when they are telling you, let us be patriotic, there is often an assumption, there's a particular power configuration. They're asking you, please, let's support this. And those that are often opposed or delinking from Nigerian state, quite often it's not because they are less patriotic, but because they are challenging a particular power configuration that sustains a particular form of unity. Another very vital thing I would like us to reflect on is quite often we hear people say, Nigeria has never been as divided as this. I'm not too sure again, this has to be deconstructed because I remember as early as 2011, I was invited by the Institute for Security Studies with the late Ralph Mustafa. We were asked to come and talk about Boko Haram. And Ralph was to give the history of Boko Haram, and I was to develop a theoretical frame for understanding it. At that time, I said Boko Haram was a manifestation of the crisis in our nation building project, 2011, which means that the current crisis preceded, the current regime. In other words, anytime we talk about the problem of unity now, is it really something, when did it start? And what is the contribution of democracy to when we talk about Nigeria has never been as divided as this? Let me elaborate. People who study about elections and democracies, they sometimes talk about democratizing societies or societies in transition. These are societies that are emerging from long periods of authoritarian rule. And they say that those societies have a tendency in the short to medium term that the free speech guarantees that are embedded in liberal democracy can, in the short to medium term, aggravate the structures of conflict in the society because there's a lot of bottled up feelings to be unloaded. So people are then wondering, and I'm happy when Professor Jega was saying that the civilian administrations did very little. Is it really that they did little, or because there's so much unbottled up feeling, which the free speech guarantees in democracy are allowing us to express? And if that is the story, how then do we manage it? What do we consider as nation building in this thing? The other thing I would like us to consider, and I'm happy because years ago in Sweden, I know when, I haven't met you, but I know you was around there, and you're very active in the discussion about structural adjustment program. When we talk about unity, nation building, we also have to make sure that we understand the difference between that and groupthink. Groupthink is concurrency scheme behavior, where we expect everybody is supposed to, buy into one idea. But nation building does not necessarily mean groupthink. And when you have polarized society and so many groupthinks, how do we identify what can be called nation building? Ladies and gentlemen, these some of the things I would like the panelists to consider as we take up the discussion. And I'll start with Dr. Emeka Nwosu, who will talk about building nation and engendering a culture of political tolerance. If possible, if you can also integrate a very vital thing that is also part of the conversation on the dichotomy between citizenship right and indigenous right. It is not a very straightforward, because some people actually believe that, contrary to what Prof said, that will create more problems. Somebody defined an indigene as somebody who knows how to propitiate the local deities. In other words, that you can stay in a place for 30 years without being part of them. And if they cannot introduce you as one of us, whether you will have lived there for 30 years may not matter. So Dr. Emeka Nwosu, please give us 5-7 minutes. Yeah. Just 5 to 7 minutes, please.
We're already sitting on existing protocols. But before I proceed, I want to acknowledge the distinguished presence of the Chief Guest of Honor, the Chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum and Governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Fayemi. You're most welcome, sir. All protocols duly observed. Well, I've been asked to speak on building a nation and engendering a culture of political tolerance. First and foremost, what do we mean by political tolerance? I believe tolerance is having the capacity to understand ourselves, to accommodate, the other person's views. We're not talking about a collectivity, Nigerian collectivity, which of course is composed of so many groups that are competing for attention. So how do we now develop this culture of tolerance? Because if you follow our history, the trajectory of this country, from the time we gain independence up to the moment, one thing that has defined the political culture of this country is the issue of political intolerance. And of course, we see this manifest itself during the contestation for political power amongst political parties and amongst the constituent social and political groups in Nigeria. And that is why Frank Fanon said, and I always like to refer to him, say, every generation out of his relative or surety discovers its mission, fulfills or betrays it. I want to believe that Nigeria has since discovered its mission. So like one of the founding fathers, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, spoke in 1943, talking about the manifest destiny of Nigeria, which is to lead Africa, the people of Africa, out of the bondage of the time. But to what extent have we tried to maximize or attain, this vision of realizing our manifest destiny? We listened to the presentation by Professor Jega. He spoke on a number of issues. And some of them are quite good, but some of them may have problems where he was proposing solutions. He talked about this issue of indigenship and citizenship. And if you have lived, ideally, if you have lived in a place up to 3, 4, 5 years, and you are discharging your obligations as a citizen, you should be able, to be part of that particular society. But we know we have problems in this country. Let us not deceive ourselves. There are groups that feel endangered. Even within the community, there are such minor groups. So by the time you are talking about allowing people coming, staying up to 5 years, and then becoming indigenous, such people that feel endangered might be overwhelmed, and they may lose their relevance even in their homeland. So these are issues that need to be critically evaluated and see what mechanisms we can put in place to protect the interests of such people who may turn out to become minorities in their homeland. Well, now we talk about national unity, which is why we are here. What is unity all about? We talk about shared aspiration. We talk about, subscription to a commonly defined national interest. But over time, our unity people say that Nigerian unity is non-negotiable. Nigerian unity is totally indivisible. But I share a different opinion, because in the process of forming a nation, we must look at the terms of that unity at any point in time. So once we are seeing frictions, we have to find a way to redefine, and so that the nation can begin to forge ahead. Of recent, we have seen the unity of Nigeria being challenged by various non-state actors, to the extent that some people are now beginning to classify Nigeria as a failing state. Some even say Nigeria as a failed state. One, what are the indices of a failed state? The inability of a state to provide security, the inability of a state to provide basic social services to the people, and of course, you have ungoverned territories all over the place, ungoverned spaces. So if you look at this critically, I think there are issues we must, as a nation, come together to talk about. And that is why this particular program today is very, very important, because we need conversation, national conversation around some of these issues. We cannot run away from them. It is when we discuss, when we dialogue, we'll be able to understand ourselves. Jola, we are told here, when this country was at a formative stage, the interaction between Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe and Ahmadu Bello, where one was talking about, let's forget our differences. One said, no, we cannot forget it. We must understand our differences. It is good for us to understand our differences, because if we are different social groups, we are bound to have differences. And what should matter is, how do we manage these differences? The truth of the matter today is that in Nigeria, injustice is at the core of the various agitations in various parts of this country. So we must begin to address these issues of injustice. And before we allow them to escalate. And that is why what NPM is doing today is very, very significant. So we must continue with the discussion around all these issues that are agitating our polity. Because we are better off in a bigger and united Nigeria. No person should have any doubt about that. So even all these people that are agitating, they're on the fringe. But because we have not been able to manage our diversity over the years, those people are now gaining attention and gaining support. So this opportunity, we are using it to challenge our leaders to please look at the issues that are causing frictions all over the place. Let's see how we can address these issues, and so that our nation can make progress. In concluding, I want to quote William Shakespeare. He said, "There is a tide in the face of men, which taken unto the fortune, amidst our voyages and shallows and mysteries. And on such a full sea are we now afloat. We must take our current when it starts, or lose our ventures." So we are now at the critical moment in our history. We must take the current now when it serves, or lose our ventures. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mosu. Professor Lukushi will now look at the nexus between economic prosperity and peace.
Thank you very much. Indeed, moderator, I would like to also, you said we should sit on existing protocols.
Yes,
I think that is appropriate, but it would also be in order to recognize our elder statesmen who are here with us today. Some of them actually legends at the time we were growing up as young people. I grew up in Kaduna, and names of the likes of General IBM Haruna resonated as people who we saw as leaders and role models in our childhood. And I would also like to recognize the presence of our special guest, is this better? The governor of Ekiti State, chair of the Nigeria Governors Forum, and finally our traditional leaders who are here present, and finally colleague, friend, fighter for justice, and indefatigable fighter for justice, Professor Jega, who gave us an excellent keynote address. Chair, you raised some very pertinent questions, which I think is important for us to unpack here. And the first of them I would like to suggest is the question of the division between indigenes and non-indigenes. I think it's important for us to recognize that in the making of nations around the world, migrations have been part of the story. Today's indigenes were yesterday's migrants. And unless we find a way to reconcile the relationship between settlers and indigenes, we are going to have a repeat of the cycle of history. This is important for us to keep in mind. Time will not allow me to elaborate, but I think we can easily, in the context of Nigeria, go back to the history books that have been produced, trace the pattern of the movement of population over the last 500 years in this space which we now call Nigeria. And you might realize actually that you and I are cousins. Not indigenous and settlers, but cousins. And DNA technology might even confirm it to us. That therefore, the question of indigenes and citizens or settlers and natives and so on and so forth is actually part of an invention of identities that is connected to struggles for resources, which if properly managed in the context of a universalization of social policy, for example, we might actually successfully blunt. But as Jega pointed out in his address, trying to manage this also in a federal system, has led some countries to actually devise rules that make it possible for those who are described as migrants or non-indigenous to acquire the basic rights of citizenship that belong to them. I just made reference to the fact that I grew up in Kaduna. I come from Kogi State. My parents came from Kogi State. I've never lived in Kogi State. Will I be disenfranchised as a Nigerian for the fact that I grew up in a place where my parents, disenfranchised on account of the fact that I am not located in a context where my parents originated from. And I think this is important that we sort out politically and constitutionally. The second is that I think sometimes we make too much of our differences and make too little of the things that actually unite us. And believe it or not, there are many things that unite us in this country. I mean, people eking out their living on a day-to-day basis don't leave their homes saying that I'm going out to hate somebody who is not from my ethnic group. That's not the way we think. That's not the way we function. And we need to better understand the conditions under which people get mobilized into forms of identity politics that are not in themselves natural to their mode of mobilization of livelihood. Linguists on this continent have actually traced and convinced, I think, all of us who work in the field of diversity, that when you boil it all down, there's so many languages, 500 or more on the African continent, have their roots in not more than 5 or 6 languages. When you boil it down. And in the end, what we reify as our particular language or linguistic identity is actually a sub-dialect of another. And we only create those differences and reify them because of an absence of memory. Time creates a deficit in memory and therefore begins to create distance. And I would argue in that regard at a third level that in addition to the points on civics and citizenship and leadership training, which Jega made, we must take the teaching of history seriously in Nigeria. We have more or less downgraded the teaching of history in our secondary schools, in our universities. And if in the context of the challenges of our unity today, we want to rewrite the narrative of this country, we cannot avoid teaching history of the kind that underscores the fact that we are actually much closer to one another and that the Niger-Benue Basin has been actually an important cradle from which we spread out in this country than is often recognized. And our historians have done the work. They've done the research. We don't need to reinvent anything. At a fourth level, I think also sometimes we underestimate the insidious role which bad leadership can play in undermining unity. It is okay, I think, for ordinary Nigerians to feel unhappy about the state of affairs in the country. But as Jega pointed out, it is quite something else for unscrupulous political leadership to exploit disgruntlement or discontent along ethno-regional or religious lines, simply for the purpose of winning an election, for example, or getting a second term, or having access to resources and the like. And if we are to really understand the true meaning of leadership, it is that ability to be able to hear your people, but also translate their voices in an enlightened and positive manner into a broader agenda of national transformation. And believe it or not, in this country, at this point in time, to build our unity, we do need to have visionary leadership and charismatic leadership. That is actually the imperative of the moment. We cannot leave the process of selecting leaders, especially under these conditions and circumstances, to market forces, a kind of lottery. If you are lucky, you might get a good leader. If you are not lucky, well, we are at a critical juncture where as Nigerians, we need to begin to zero in to say what are the qualities of the kind of charismatic and visionary leadership that we want, that is able to build bridges, arrive at consensus, but also pull us forward, because we are underperforming our potentiality. And I believe that this resonates very much with the key message, one of the key messages from Professor Jega, that at this point in time, the discovery of that kind of leadership is our imperative of the moment. I will close on the question of patriotism. Patriotism, as you rightly indicated, is not something which we should take for granted. The fact of being a member of a citizen of Nigeria does not automatically mean that I will be patriotic to the country without conditions. Patriotism is connected in every society to the relationship which we have with one another as our brothers' keepers, our sisters' keepers, but also the relationship which we have to those who lead us, and vice versa, that reciprocal relationship. In our social science jargon, we call it the social contract. We call it the social bargain. But this is not a seminar room. It's that reciprocal relationship that I have with my neighbor and with my government that makes me to feel that Nigeria is home. And I have a right, a sense, and an entitlement of belonging that will make it possible for me to defend that homeland. We somehow have retreated into ethnic cocoons, believing that our patriotism will be displayed in terms of the ethnic boundary as our homeland. It's a big mistake, because the moment I believe it, and you can see it from the examples of many countries. Indeed, our special guest at the Zik lecture recently gave us the example of Sudan. The more you fragment a country into ethnic enclaves, the more divisions you create in those countries. And at the end of the day, what matters is for us to build a pan-territorial and secular sense of identity in which every Nigerian, regardless of where they are located in this country, urban or rural, will feel a sense of belonging and a feeling that Nigeria is that homeland that cannot be traded away or negotiated. That is where patriotism is located. And again, at the end, a visionary leadership, such as the one that we need at this time, will be able to identify those key pillars of building a secular national identity that will reinforce a foundation of patriotism on the basis of which we can then begin to dissolve certain differences which are not consequential and address those that really do matter. I will close. My neighbor started with poems and Shakespeare. So let me also quote and end with a quotation. And it's one which all of us who did political science were introduced to on the first day of our lectures. Alexander Pope, who was speaking in the context of a divided Europe, deeply divided Europe. They were fighting wars. Actually, Europe has caused much more headache for this world than many people recognize. It's not the El Dorado we sometimes think it is. But in the context of the turmoil that prevailed in Europe, Alexander Pope wrote his poem, "Of forms of government, let fools contend. Whatever is administered best is best." Are you hearing Jega's notion of good democratic governance in that poem? Whatever is administered best is best. For modes of faith, let graceless zealots fight. His cannot be wrong whose life is in the right. In faith and hope, the world will disagree, but all humankind's concern is charity. Let's learn to be charitable with one another. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Maybe another time, there will be a time to discuss the nexus between economic prosperity and peace. Okay, I will call on Dr. Amina Salihu to discuss on social investment and addressing social inequality. If you want to take a little bit of time to address some of the issues
that you have raised as well.
that were thrown out.
Absolutely. I would like to start from there. I'm sure my voice carries. I used to be a classroom teacher, and I'm still a feminist. And we're taught to always be sure our voices were heard. This is a very important conversation to have. And I thank the two professors who've come before me for the context that they have set. They have looked at the matter of citizenship, issues of state and societal relationship in terms of, if you will, the geophysical. They've looked at community as a physical enclave and what is right and what is wrong in there. And I do agree with them. I think I would like to take a different kind of, if you will, road linked to this, but a kind of fork, and look at the community from the social perspective. Professor Jega in his keynote address indeed made a reference about the context of citizenship and how this is a problematic. Our moderator also talked about the concept of nationhood, and that is where I'd like to start. Nigerians and friends of Nigeria in the room and watching us all over the world do know our motto: unity and faith, peace and progress. This is spot on, this is stellar. The challenge, however, has been operationalizing this and ensuring that we implement it. Unity has been talked about a lot today, so let me go on to faith. Before you can have faith in something or someone, that someone has to also have faith in you. When people say, I would die for my country, it is because my country would also die for me. It's a two-way street. Therefore, when we talk about nationhood, it's actually quite different from a situation of a countryhood. We are a country. We know our geographical expression. We know we have sovereignty, but we are a country of nations. And until and unless we have that shared affinity of understanding, like Sadona said, decades ago, understanding our differences, we would not be able to move ahead. I, as a political scientist, have always had a challenge with the expression tolerance. I know it's always said in a context of meaning well, but I think it has become very politically loaded. Because when you begin from the premise of tolerating someone, it means that they are otherized, they are the other, and you are the accepted. That cannot be. They cannot be big, they cannot be small. They cannot be majority, they cannot be minority. They cannot be old, they cannot be young. They can't be male, they can't be female. There can only be one us. And we're still negotiating that. We're not there yet. So I'll give you an example of citizenship. It is easy for me as a Nigerian carrying my green passport to have the respect of being a Nigerian female anywhere in the world. But my citizenship as a Nigerian female is contested in this country. I'll give you an example. My sisters know what I mean. My parents are from Kwara State. My husband is from Kaduna State. If we were to follow the dynamics of residency in this country, like our keynote speaker had advised, I would not have a problem. But right now, assuming I wanted to run for office, if I went back to my father's state, they're going to say to me, but we married you out to Kaduna. Go and contest in Kaduna. Then Kaduna will say to me, oh, but we have our own children. The space is too narrow. So I become stuck in between. I do not have an assured citizenship. Now, I've been asked to talk about social investment, and so I want to link this to that particular theme. When you talk about social investment, you must ask yourself the question, who are you investing in and what are you investing? And how does that transform their lives? We have a lot of policies in this country, excellent policies, but sometimes they are very centralized and they do not get decentralized, they do not get to the communities. And remember I told you I wanted to speak to the social community. So a lot of the time we pay lip service to the issue of women's rights, the issue of youth rights, but in this same country, we know that women make up 49.7% of the population, 50% of the population, so to say. And yet, just take a look at our National Assembly and look at the number of senators we have. Out of 109, about 7 women. And it's no better in the House of Reps. It's worse at the state level, whether legislative or executive. Now, when you talk about nationhood and you talk about social investment, where exactly does our social investment lie? It's certainly not going to people who need to have voice, who need to participate. And so if I feel excluded, which is the exact opposite of inclusion, if I do not feel affirmed or respected, then I do not feel a shared affinity. My sister Ene and I are wearing orange. It's for a reason. Every 25th November to 10th December is designated as the 16 days of activism against sexual and gender-based violence. November 25th is a day for the elimination of violence against women. But we know the different forms of violence that go unmentioned, unaddressed, unappreciated, unaffirmed in this country. I'll name a few. Insecurity has eaten into the fabric of our country. And we know that families, communities feel it the most. Individuals experience insecurity. But our response to matters of insecurity is not at the granular level where it is experienced. It is at the, if you will, at a much more higher national level where it is not an aggregate experience. It is an individual experience. Go to the internally displaced persons camps today and you find the majority of them are women and children. But when it comes to the table where we discuss peace and transforming conflict, they are not there. Now, conflict in itself is not a problem. The challenge is our inability to transform conflict. That is one. Second is the lesson from COVID-19 and the fact that when someone tells you that our culture is fixed, tell them they're lying. Culture is a way of life that evolves as a people evolve. So it is not our culture to oppress women or to oppress men. It's not our culture to beat women. But at the height of COVID-19 in this country, the police told us that they recorded 774 cases of violence against women. And none of that made it to courts. So what kind of system do we have where some people are above the law? You need to have the rule of law to have nationhood. I need to know that my right matters just as my neighbor's rights matter. The third example I'm going to give is around the voice of young people. Once upon a time in this country, this is a non-partisan space, so I wouldn't mention the name, but a political party had a 60-year-old person as a youth leader. So the question is, where is the generational shift? Because Professor Jega talked about mentoring. We cannot pass the buck. We have to invest in our younger people. Investing in them begins with giving them voice, listening to what they have to say, taking them very seriously and seeding space. There's a role for everyone. I have seen elder statespersons in this room today who continue to have a role. There's a role for everyone, but we need to know when to renegotiate that role and when to cede space. We're not ready to cede space to our youth. We're not ready to cede space to women. And to round up my thoughts, dear moderator, the thing that worries me about my country, Nigeria, is the theme of waste. We waste opportunity. We waste our human resource. Right now, in northern Nigeria, only 1 out of 4 girls will finish a course of secondary schooling. By the year 2050, we have been told that we could gain a demographic dividend because we're going to have more than 60% of our population being young people of both gender. Now, if we're not looking at the nature of our education and what they're taking away right now, they'll continue to jackpot. You all know what jackpot is, the young people in the room. They will do the Andrews. My parents' generation knew Andrew. They would leave. But you see, if we want them to stay, we have to be very consistent about policy. We cannot be having a policy somersault. The role of data is very important. We do not plan with data in this country, so we don't even know how many young people we really have yet. We pay a lot of attention to what is happening at the federal, yet there are state governments that are showing and leading by example, and His Excellency Governor Fayemi is here. So we need to pay attention to what is happening at the state level. And I love the fact that we're sitting here now at an NPM forum, but this prosperity movement has to be decentralized. We need to go to the grassroots and talk in our local languages so that people can understand or policymakers can understand what it means to invest in people, and we know exactly what they need from us. We want the legislators in the room today at the state and the federal level to please support the Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill. It's very important. It is not a bill that is against development, it's a bill that is for development. If I talk about social investment, I'm not talking about social investment because it's important to think about women and young people. I'm talking about it because that's the only way we can make headway. It is irrational for us to think that we can grow and have development by holding down 50% of our population. We're not going anywhere. The final thing I like to say is, in as much as there are challenges in this country, I mean, every country has its challenge, and this conversation is a way to discuss that challenge. But what is most important is that we continue to negotiate. We need more spaces where we renegotiate our togetherness. Let us not take it for granted. We need to continue to negotiate. And one of the ways we are going to negotiate that is looking at the issue of affirmative action. Affirmative action is not new to us in this country. Federal character is affirmative action. Quota system is affirmative action. But the moment you hear gender-based affirmative action, they think it is foreign. It is not foreign to us. Affirmative action exists. So We cannot sit at a table and we don't have enough women there. We are losing already 50% of our population, and that is unacceptable in terms of development. Final is the fact that within every nation are other nations. In as much as we're pointing accusing fingers at, say, government and our duty bearers, we ourselves need to do better. What kind of policies do we have within our families? Because it always starts from there for me. That is why I'm looking at the social dimension. How do we treat persons with disabilities? This hall is a public space and it's not disability friendly. You cannot wheel a chair in here. You cannot. Yet we have a policy in this country that makes, how should I put it, public buildings accessible to everyone. And this is even a better venue. There are worse venues. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at how I got here. And I was like, but wait a second, this can be a whole lot more accessible. So when we think about the nations within nations, when we ask ourselves, how are we treating the poor amongst us? How are we using time? How are we using the economic resources we have? How are we using the human resources that we have? Then the world will respect us more. And our country will then be that very strong giant of Africa that it is meant to be. But let us look at the small issues first, because it's the building blocks of the small issues that would help us build a very strong foundation and a sustainable Nigeria. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Your intervention has, I would like to flag one thing up. Whenever we converse about nation building, there's often a tendency for us to focus on the ethnic. But we do know, like, every individual is an embodiment of a mosaic of identities. In the same way, every country is an embodiment of a mosaic of identities. So you have, as you mentioned, the tension between nation and nationality. And then also the tension between the country that embodies various identities. You as individual, you share in some of those identities. So occasionally, somebody who is extremely cosmopolitan will suddenly turn into an ethnic champion. In identity studies, they say the identity that is perceived to be under threat will be the one most vociferously defended. So that no matter how cosmopolitan you are, suddenly you hear that you are from Kogi State, that Kogis are under attack. You become a Kogi champion, even though you've never lived there. You get down to Kogi, you hear that one town is attacking your town, that they are the ones responsible for the lack of progress. You become a champion of your town. So you can see that Dr. Amina, suddenly you see the identity that she's projecting here is a woman identity. So whenever we talk about nation building, we have then to be also that it is not just about ethnic. It is to know at what point individuals and entities privilege other identities. So if you see these ethnic entrepreneurs or separatists that are trying to delink from the Nigerian state, what identity? Why are they trying to delink? Why? She spoke very passionately about the issue of women. So I think it's important for us to bear this in conversation, that nation building doesn't mean that because people are quarreling, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have failed. Thank you. Let me call on Ms. Ene to give her own perspective on, sorry, you are going to speak on
inclusion.
And inclusion. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. And thank you, earlier speakers. Thank you so much, my sister, Dr. Amina. I'm happy to be here. I'm grateful particularly for this movement. The movement, the name itself, you can feel success. You can feel unity in it. And I'm glad that there are lots who are here who are already practitioners of unity that are here. They have the attitude of unity. They are not people you need to preach to. And let me also respectfully recognize our elders that are here. I feel guilty, particularly that they are here, because if everything was well with us as a country, I believe that They will only send message to us, but they are here to reinforce the fact that there is an urgent need for us to move to where we need to be. So thank you very much, the elder statesmen that are here. And let me go to the paper that Professor Jega has presented. There are so many points that are there. For me, it's a manual for our national unity. I say a manual, if you look at the references he has given also, I've listened to him speak at various fora and spaces, and you can trust him because he is a practitioner. He's not saying what he has not been able to do. When I look back today, I recall when he was a national chair of INEC talking about inclusion and fairness. Okay, I recall that I approached him. I said, look, we published the Woman Today newspaper. Can you give us the opportunity to train the press corps so that they'll be able to report the issues of women more dispassionately, like Dr. Amina, that our respected father, the AVM, talked about, and Professor Jagatu talked about, because if you have history, if you have knowledge of your past, it is easier for you to relate with the present and also connect to the future. That is when we'll be able to practice inclusion sufficiently. At a time in the National Assembly, the entire 19 northern states had only one woman in the Senate. And if you also go to the green chambers, we had less than 5 women in the entire 19 northern states. If you look at the statistics, you realize that in both elective appointive positions, we didn't have enough. If we didn't have enough, and if Nigeria, by the way the governance structure is that Professor Jega has alluded to, somebody had said that it's the superstructure of politics and governance that brought us to our knees as a country, and we are struggling to rise up. It means you need sufficient number of women there to be able to transform the space, to be more inclusive, to be participatory, to be representative and accountable. I like us to look at this room now. So one of the challenges you have as DG that we can support you to do, I want to look at the whole and look at the position the women are right now. We have in the room here, Dr. Kuza. She was the first journalist from Guardian newspaper as far back as 1983 to cover the National Assembly. I want you to look at it. If it's deserving for her to sit at that position, she's sitting, she's a conflict expert, conflict transformation expert. Dr. Amina had alluded to the fact that the challenge we have is that we've not been able to translate or transmit or transform the conflicts we face into empowering processes for ourselves. I like to call on all of us. The call to action is that look at the number. If a state like Anambra will bring 3 women as senators to the Senate, and you have the entire northern state bringing only 1 woman, then you know there's a problem. And if you go to the Southwest, how many women are there from the Southwest? Then if you go to the executive arm of government, the National Executive Council of Nigeria is a power structure for bringing up policies and programs that impact on the lives of everybody. The Southwest, I'm emphasizing it because you know what the Southwest stands for in terms of development, education, empowerment, knowledge, socialization. Not one woman is in the Federal Executive Council. So where is the fairness? Where is the inclusion? If you look at the National Executive Council, the National Economic Council, which are powerful structures of governance too, you don't have anybody with disability there. And you are looking at like 10 demographics within the disability community. So where do we want to be as a country in terms of inclusion and want to have peace? If people are not at the governance table, it's very rare for them to be remembered. And we want to thank the governor, not that we are massaging his ego because he's the governor of governors or governor general, but today there is this document, the Violence Against Person Prohibition Act. Apart from Bauchi State, the next state that has an appropriated fund to fund this project is Ekiti State. And it's the only state with 280 capacity shelter. And that shelter is necessary, not that we're advocating what is out of our culture. Dr. Amina has alluded to this. This law was given to us by ourselves and passed by our assembly. Yet, not all the states have been able to pass this as we speak today. So you see that there are challenges that we are facing that we can surmount as a nation. Professor Jega had talked about low-hanging fruits. What can we do differently? I thank God that Dr. Otibe is one of us. When I say one of us, he believes so much in, he's a gender champion. Dr. Saada Tumadi has said we should not say male champion, but a gender champion. He believes so much in this, and where he is, my sister had talked about this earlier. This is a bill before the National Assembly, 111 seats for women. Women, all shades of women, women with disabilities, aged women, young women. So what do we want to do? Because all of us here are people of influence. So in conclusion, I would like us to see that there is a need for us to have an attitude of inclusion, fairness, and good representation, because the African that we have always known was never lacking in terms of giving the right thing to everybody. I grew up to see people in the villages. You have the women's side, you have the men's side, you have the youth side, even the African, at the African level. If you look at the book written by Sheikh Anthem and Sierra Leonean, the origin of African civilization, we have the House of Women, we have the House of Men, and the House of Women with the Supreme Arbiter. Supreme, if anything was so technically difficult and it would not be solved, they refer it to the women's room, and it was solved, and we still do it. So why can't we go back without necessarily going back to what is not progressing? So there's opportunity to progress together, and when we progress together, the better for all of us, because if the women are not progressing, it means you will not be able to get the best emotionally, physically, spiritually, because we know that God hears the prayer of women more than men. So let us see what you can do. In terms of the coordinators, let us know how many are going to be women, your coordinators. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for that very powerful rendition. I just want to flag up one thing. Even the title, Promoting Equity, Fairness, and Justice. Sometimes we think it's all too easy. But when we remember that in this country, every part of this country seems to have an institutionalized memory of ought. There's no part of this country that doesn't have a sense of ought. And I was discussing with one of our leading public intellectuals, and we are looking at, will it be possible for us, if the country can do something like a program of memory? You might be thinking that you are so much marginalized, you move to another community and they tell you your own story. You just feel you are lucky. So that's this issue of promoting equity doesn't seem to be so straightforward as it, because sometimes you want to address an immediate, people will remember their own hurt and feel it has not been addressed. The other thing that came up in your discussion is, as you mentioned, the representations from different areas. It does seem to me that there's, even though our political parties do not have any form of philosophy or ideology, you see an increasing differentiation in different parts of the country. For example, there's a tendency, I'm beginning to think that in the North, you see a kind of welfarism that is coming up. You see that in some places it's pure mercantilism. You know, in the South, you see other areas. And therefore, when they talk about inclusion, they also want an inclusion for the philosophies they believe in to be included in that. So we have to call 4 contributors now to make very brief statements, raise some questions, and then we'll throw this thing open very briefly, knowing we have very distinguished statesmen. We have the governor of governors, who's been here with us for some time, elder statesman, General IBM Haruna, and the rest of them. We don't need to try their patience. They've been patiently with us now for too long, for quite some time. So the 4 contributors, they will ask questions very quickly, or just elaborate on an issue.
All right, thank you very much, Chairman of the panel. Dr. Dayo Kusa, conflict transformation expert. Are you around, Dr. Dayo Kusa? 3 minutes. Where is he? Oh, okay. Dr. Dayokusa is a she. So I come with a microphone to her. As she's doing that, I'm giving to understand we have a representative of the NLC president. No name indicates. We have Dr. Otivie Ibuzo, and then Surveyor Aluko, former Deputy Governor Ekiti. Yeah, why not?
Good afternoon, all. I didn't hear you. On the issue of inclusion, very quickly, I believe strongly that for women to be included more visibly in the political space, we need safe spaces for women. And affirmative action needs to be taken much more seriously. Then for national integration, I believe you should start from the home. We catch them young, teach peer-to-peer mediation among siblings, amongst friends in schools, and so forth. I believe more conflict transformation experts need to come to the fore to reiterate the fact that peace is primary in our climb. I don't want to take too much of our time, but if these two things are done, affirmative action, people look at it in a weird manner when women are being talked about, but we need it because the playing field is not level. And therefore, something needs to be done by giving safe spaces to women, and this would make them more visible in future. And mediation is very important amongst us, between ethno-religious organizations and so forth. I stop there, thank you.
Thank you very much, madam. Dr. Dayokusa, for you there. I think I can remember where the deputy governor of former deputy governor of Ekiti State sat when I introduced him. So let me move to the right and begin to look for him. And I found him. Surveyor Aluko, please, sir.
The chairman, the special guest of honor, all other participants at this forum. The issue of national unity, like Professor Jega said, should start from the home to the state and then to the national. I want to commend the governor of Ekiti State on this very issue, because he has opened up the political and economic space to everybody, men and women. We have 6 members in the House of Assembly of Ekiti State who are women. And at the local government level, almost 50% of the councillors are women. We have an LCDA in Ekiti State, Ikere West LCDA. Out of 4 councillors, 3 of them are women, and the chairman is also a woman. The chairman of that local government is a woman. Out of 4 councillors, we have 3 who are women. There was a time I had a discussion with our governor on the economic development in Ekiti State. And I was surprised we got to the issue of certificates of occupancy for people who want to establish business and then take loans. He brought out a file. Out of about 28 people that applied for C of O, which he granted that same day, 20 of them were Igbo people. Igbos, 20 of them were Igbos. So as far as Dr. Fayemi is concerned, he believes in equity, he believes in meritocracy, and he also believes in inclusion of everybody, man or woman. And I believe we have a lot to learn from Dr. Kayode Fayemi, the governor of Ekiti State. I want all other states to emulate what he is doing in Ekiti State, because nobody can talk of marginalization as far as Ekiti State is concerned. Either you are a man or a woman, either you are an indigene or not. Somebody who is granted CFO to do business in Ekiti State, can he consider himself an outsider in that state? No, because that's where he has put his money and his life. And anybody who goes to Ekiti State, either you are an Igbo man or you are from the North, Hausa or Fulani, come to Ekiti State. The place is the home for everybody, where nobody is discriminated against. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Start from your attitude to singing the national anthem. You will see that when we are singing our anthem, we have this nonchalant attitude. Some are talking, some are moving around, some will even pocket. We need to pay full attention to this national anthem and sing it, because it's a prayer that we really sing, that we really mean. This is what we mean for our Nigeria, especially the second stanza. You cannot be praying to your God and be looking around. So we need to really pay more attention to some of these virtues that can move and can help us build good leadership. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, great Koga. It's just two more people. Taiwo Akerele. Where is he seated? That's the Executive Director of Policy. I'm coming to you. Just two more people. Short and simple.
Thank you. Still standing on the existing protocol, Mrs. Mbadura Antonia. Two sectors are not to be indigenized or politicized, and that is health and education sector. When you look at I thank God for the eligibility of the speakers. When you look at the standard of education now, in fact, is falling drastically. Where you find out that our children, the primary school children, are still on strike up till now. After the long COVID-19, they stayed at home. And then there was a strike where they were negotiating for a peanut for teachers. And that peanut was not given to them. They started, and all of a sudden, now they are still on strike. And when you look at the kind of teachers that are being employed, you find out that they are teachers to write home, they cannot be written at home about. You find out when you go to schools, more clerks than teachers. We are lacking teachers, and those of them that are employed cannot even deliver. So if we are talking of equity, please, our children, the standard of education is drastically low. They are deceiving our children. I want that area to be looking into. Thank you very much.
Now it's getting more interesting and time is against us. Next time, come very early so that we can. Taiwo Akerele.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to appreciate the panel of discussants for digesting the issues at stake very comprehensively. Today in Nigeria, we have leadership challenge. And we cannot continue to shy away from the fact that the key issues that has undermined the development of this country is lack of visionary leadership. There's no doubt about that. Ethnicity, out of school children, tribalism, kidnapping, banditry, lack of infrastructure, weak institutions, all revolves around weak leadership. And it is time for us to move our country out of those problems. Something happened in 1960 in Africa, and that was the independence of Nigeria. Something else happened in Singapore 3 years after, and that was the independence of Singapore. When Singapore got independence, they were not happy because they didn't have resources. No oil, the water was salty, a very small country. They were expelled from Malaysia. But in Nigeria, 3 years before, we were jubilating that we got independence. In fact, public holiday was declared. But today, what's the difference? Lee Kuan Yew emerged as the leader of Singapore when Nigeria never had quality leadership. Today, Singapore that was not happy that they got independence 60 years ago, today they have one of the highest per capita income in the world. What is the difference? leadership. In 1994, Rwanda was involved in genocide, while Nigeria was involved in the annulment of June 12 election. Two things happened, annulment and genocide. Today, Rwanda is one of the highest, one of the most developed countries in Africa. People are rushing to Rwanda, but after how many years, where is Nigeria? So the key issue is identifying visionary leadership. In all of this, everything revolves around leadership. So as 2023 is beckoning, let us not look at tribalism. Let us not look at zoning. Let us not look at any other factor but other than that man that can take Nigeria out of underdevelopment to the next level. Thank you. God bless.
Well, I sincerely hope we'll walk the talk. 2023 is very close. Let us not look at onions. Let us not look at rice. Let us not look at all those small things they give us, wrappers that are faded and all of that. Let us look at quality leadership. Is that what you said? And this conversation is getting very interesting. Unfortunately, when we are having fun, time is not our friend.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, distinguished guest chairman and our guest speaker and governor of governors. We're rounding up this. We've thrown up a number of issues. The time is not enough for us to discuss all of them. And permit me just 30 seconds. I keep hearing about this Rwanda, and this very important, leadership is very important. But there is the issue of environmental variables. Will Nigerians allow anybody to stay for 30 years in office? And they will remind you where you come from. So it's also important as we try to imitate that we take into cognizance our own environmental issues. We've run out of time, and I think we have to thank all the panelists. Okay, do you want to? Okay, maybe you. Okay, maybe if you want to round up 30 seconds, we are stretching the guests. Okay. Yes, maybe one minute to round up. I'm just conscious of the fact that we don't want to take.
I can take the entire 5 minutes for everyone, since I think the moderator has permitted me. And let me begin by thanking our father and our elder statesperson, Alhaji Sidi Ali, for his intervention. I think we need to have more Ekiti, more Adamawa, more Kaduna states. That is what we are saying. And we need to have it written in black and white, not leaving the rights and opportunities for women at the whim and caprice of any person who is in power. I think this is the fundamental. How do we grow more inclusive as far as our states are concerned? Moderator, you gave me an idea when you said the sense of ought. And sometimes we are stuck at the sense of is. And sometimes it's very obvious what the sense of ought is. One of it is that, yes, like the keynote speaker said, we need to review our curriculum. We need to teach about peace building in schools. We need to ensure that our children understand issues of gender and women's human rights. This is very important. And you cannot have an assured nationhood without looking at the economic. Something that is an ought that is very simple is that we all should invest in buying made in Nigeria. When I look around the room and I see all the caps that our brothers are wearing, and I see the geles that our sisters are wearing, and I salute you all because you are indeed supporting industry. We cannot continue to pass the buck and say one person is not doing right, another person is doing bad. We ourselves, it will have to start with us. I do not want to throw away the baby with the bathwater. So I believe that there are things that are working in Nigeria, and it's important for us to affirm that. We do have good laws that are working in this country, but there's more that we can do, and there's more that we can do together. And as 2023 emerges or comes around the corner, I do agree that the office of the citizen is very important. I would like to invite everyone here to please just take your smartphone and look for this website that I want to share with you. It's called the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, www.sppg, School of Politics, Policy and Governance. Professor Lukoshi is a member of faculty. This is a school that was started by one of us Nigerian, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, to bring together volunteers like you and I, stellar faculty members from all over the world, to create a value-based leadership. People who will be ready before they get to office. We're all talking about being ready for 2023, but there are people who want to run for office who are not prepared. They think it's about getting there and cash and carry. We need to build our preparedness. We need to make sure that we're voting the right people, and we need to follow the money. Politics is not dirty. It's only going to get dirty when we ignore the fact that it is our legacy that we are mortgaging. Please look out for School of Politics, Policy and Governance, and do join us as we try to build a better Nigeria. I thank you on behalf of the moderator and the panel.
So is that the way we end it? Okay, thank you very much, our panelists. We indeed would have wished you had more time to do this that you're doing. The day was set out for this, but like I said, we didn't start on time because you also did not come on time. So we are now caught up, we are struggling for time. We recognize you, Dr. Cliff Ogbede, Chairman Cliff Petroleum, Lagos, Professor Luma Kinde from Ekiti, Alhaji Sidi Ali, you've spoken, Isidore Anokwai, Managing Director, Jenny Ken Construction Limited, and we'll continue to recognize you as we go on. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we now want to pick so that they won't do this thing again. Thank you. Yeah, I was saying that we need, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, the governor of Ekiti State and chairman Nigerian Governors Forum, had this to say: well-structured dialogue remains a major pathway to peace and progress. There is nothing heroic in dying for a cause that dialogue and negotiations can help solve. Nothing. And that's why we are dialoguing. And he went on still to say that the indestructibility of Nigeria is indeed best assured when the majority of Nigerians are not emotionally connected to Nigeria because of what Nigeria is able to do for them. In essence, he said, the legitimacy of the nation state is not in making demands of patriotism, but in the quality of life it provides for its citizens towards building mutual trust and common goal. Ladies and gentlemen, can you help me welcome, even if you make it a standing ovation, he deserves it, the chairman, Nigerian Governors Forum, the executive governor of Ekiti State, our special guest of honor today, Dr. John Kayode Fayemi, CON. Your Excellency, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, our father, the chairman of this National Unity Summit, General IBM Haruna, retired, an elder statesman, Honorable Sidi Ali, His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, ably represented by His Highness, the Emir of Kefi, our keynote speaker, Professor Atahiru Jega, other excellencies, distinguished senators, honorable members, House of Representatives, coordinators, leaders of the National Prosperity Movement, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me start off by thanking our brother and my very good friend, Professor Atahiru Jega, for the illuminating keynote address he delivered to us on the occasion of this summit. For those among us who have been privileged to be fellow travelers with you over the years, sir, we know and have been well served by your uncompromising commitment to integrity, to equity, and to justice. Indeed, these qualities have stood you out among your peers and in the eyes of the generality of Nigerians
as a worthy example in visionary leadership anchored on service and humility, and one who is worthy of emulation. Let me also thank our panelists for their insightful analysis of where Nigeria is and where Nigeria ought to be. The key messages that have been shared with us today serve as an important source of encouragement and empowerment that will propel us to renew our individual and collective commitment to the unity and progress of our beloved country. Mr. Chairman, sir, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I reflected on the overarching theme and purpose of this summit, it seemed to me important and necessary to state from the outset that no country that I know anywhere in the world and in human history was created as a fully and permanently united entity from the outset. This is as true for multi-ethnic and multi-religious countries as it is true for those that are thought to be more homogeneous. Indeed, in every country in our world, the task of managing diversity and difference in order to forge a common purpose and vision around which to rally the citizenry is a permanent condition of life and a constant demand on leadership. Unity is never given ab initio or permanently. It requires nurturing and to be worked at constantly and on an ongoing basis. And it is for this reason that governments and citizens alike cannot afford to take unity for granted or imagine that it is offered on a platter or acquired as an automatic given. One of the imports of my observation that leaders and citizens have a duty to invest in and grow unity as a full-time vocation is that those of our compatriots who, out of a modestly understandable frustration, often say that the amalgamation of 1914 was a mistake, will do well to keep in mind that most countries in the world today are indeed the product of an involuntary and or compelled mergers and acquisitions of peoples who, once brought together under the same roof, had to work to forge bonds of unity amongst themselves. The important point to make, which we must always remember, is that unity anywhere and everywhere is an outcome that is generated out of initial conditions that are not by any means perfect. There is therefore no bypassing the hard work that leaders and governments must put in to build, sustain, and renew unity. And it is that hard work that we must call upon ourselves to undertake, doing so in faith and hope, with patience and patriotism, and an abiding commitment to the common history and humanity that we all share. In the same way that unity is not an automatic given that can be taken for granted, so also is disunity not a fatalistic inevitability into which we are locked in perpetuity. No people are condemned to a life of permanent and perpetual disunity. Imperfections and failings in any union manifest themselves in various forms and shapes. Differences and disagreements exist alongside cleavages and contradictions. We must learn as a people to accept that these are hard facts and features of any polity. Properly handled, they may be turned into important drivers of socio-political dynamic that propels countries forward in their march of progress. But mismanaged and compounded, they may also fester and become threats to stability and togetherness. Disunity of that kind that goes behind difference and divergence and which threatens violent collapse is therefore a mark of failings in governance, not the inevitable fate to which a people are condemned. In going to some length to dispel popular misconceptions about unity and disunity, and we've heard eloquently both from our keynote speaker and our panelists, I do not by any means wish to deny or downplay the fact that as a country, we in Nigeria are faced with some of the most severe tests of our nationhood since the end of the Civil War of 1967 to 1970. Rather, what I seek to convey, drawing on global comparative experiences, is to remind us that this choice of striving to build and sustain a united country belongs entirely to all of us. We can either opt to exercise that choice or forfeit it. All things considered, I believe that most of us will easily and effortlessly opt to be part of and live in a united Nigeria as long as it can be made to work for us in equity, in justice, in inclusivity, and in harmony. I submit that the duty of ensuring that type of a united country belongs to all of us collectively, even if leaders at all levels and from various walks of life also carry a special responsibility. For a people who have been in interaction with one another through commerce, migrations, diplomacy, religion, and intermarriages centuries before the onset of colonial rule and the amalgamation of 1914, it is clear that innumerable webs of interconnection and interdependence have been woven over the ages that have served as important glues in the fabric of the country. Indeed, based on the evidence of history and the contemporary sociological patterns of our country, it is incontestable that we have at least as many ties, if not more ties, that bind us together as differences that arise from time to time to pitch us against one another. For those commentators who have often wondered aloud how and why, in the face of recurrent episodes of adversity, the Nigeria Center still manages to hold, where in other countries faced with far lesser and fewer challenges, they buckle precipitously and even flounder, they may wish to look more closely at the many tangible and intangible ties that form the strong underlying bond that holds our country together. And Professor Lukoshi spoke extensively about that in his contribution. But there are two immediate implications from the foregoing. The first is that in the face of challenges, we must all learn to more effectively put the thorny matters that confront us into better perspective. Robust debate, principled disagreement, and honest skepticism are not in and of themselves bad for a polity. In fact, they comprise some of the main ingredients that make for a healthy system of governance and a thriving pluralism. What is bad is when divergences in opinion and interest are too hastily and opportunistically loaded with unhelpful baggage that play on structural divisions and stir up negative emotions as to turn any and all disagreements and difference into zero-sum encounters in reckless brinkmanship or irresponsible populism. We must all learn to be charitable with one another at all times and stem the temptation to impute the most sinister motives to the pronouncements and actions of those with whom we find ourselves locked in disagreement. The second implication that I see of the foregoing is the imperative of paying much closer attention to the many things that unite us and ensuring that they inform our pronouncements and actions. There once was a time when these factors of cohesion and communion featured prominently in the efforts at nation building and the construction of a national identity, into which we were socialized after independence in 1960. And Professor Jega spoke about some of them: National Youth Service Corps, federal government colleges, Federal School of Arts and Science. Unfortunately, over time, these efforts were abandoned or severely diluted and no longer feature in citizen and leadership training that are still on offer. As a matter of urgency, the efforts need to be restored, they need to be updated, they need to be expanded at all levels, beginning with our educational curriculum and extending to the myriad of bodies such as the National Orientation Agency and the National Youth Service Corps. We already started this in Ekiti State when we implemented our values education curriculum, which is now taught from primary 1 to SSS 3 in our state. As a matter of urgency, we also should know that success in doing so will provide a much needed corrective to the tendentious narrative that we are a group of incompatible aliens, corralled and compelled against our will and wish to live under the same national roof. It would also help to place difference and disagreement in a proper and broader perspective. To be sure, unity cannot endure where injustice, exclusion, inequity, and marginalization are embedded in the practice of governance. That is why, as leaders, we must pay attention at all times to ensure that as we work to deliver on our mandate, fairness and equity are made our watchwords at all times. Our commitment to these values must not simply be minimalist, doing only the barest minimum required of us by the Constitution, or token just for the sake of playing to the gallery, or even rhetorical through the paying of lip service. Our commitment must be robust, consistent, and demonstrable so that citizens have absolutely no doubt about the important place they occupy in our policy and political priorities. As leaders, we must not only embody the ideals of national unity, but also be seen to be their active torchbearers at all times. Earth Solutions crosses the line of representation to become an exercise in the shirking of responsibility. Unlike the bulk of their followers, leaders are positioned and privileged to know that in matters of nation and state building, the world is far more complex than the simple and many a time simplistic binary divisions that are frequently deployed to oppose black and white. There is often a lot of gray in between. Leaders must truly lead by using the broader, more complex, and better nuanced understanding they have to help moderate and modulate seasons of deep division in the polity, rather than becoming the ones who add fuel to a raging fire. Fostering unity in a context of multiple diversities, no doubt, requires fulsome attention to equity, justice, fair play, and merit. But we should also be clear that unity benefits considerably from vertical and horizontal solidarity as a key building block, lest we end up with a tyranny of meritocracy. We know from the best experiences in history that solidarity cements a sense of shared destiny among the peoples who make up a country. Contrary to popular claims that have been deployed to make the case for disintegration and separatism, solidarity does not negate merit or sideline professionalism. Instead, I believe it serves as a political and ethical basis for engineering the structures and processes of forging a sense of oneness. Solidarity in this regard must be understood in all of its dimensions: intergroup, intergender, and intergenerational. It offers hope to all citizens that no one will be fully excluded or sidelined, while strengthening faith in the fact that they belong to a country that cares. As I begin to close my statements, allow me to pay special tribute to the chairman of the occasion, Major General IBM Haruna, retired, and our royal father of the day, His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, ably represented. Both are former senior military officers. They had first-hand opportunities as they undertook their tours of duty to experience and enjoy Nigeria in all of its diversity: land, people, and culture. Out of those experiences, they expanded their horizons admirably and were able to go beyond petty prejudices and parochialisms to build a truly national pan-Nigerian outlook. And as statesmen whose examples we uphold and celebrate, they have constantly been voices of wisdom, of moderation, of reconciliation, and consensus. I have been most highly impressed with the commitment with which they have defended the ideal of a united and diverse Nigeria, built on a foundation of equity, fairness, justice, and mutual solidarity. Esteemed General Haruna and Your Eminence, the Sultan, ably represented by the Emir of Kefi, I want to salute you and the example in dignified leadership you have provided to us and you continue to offer. But I also believe that this summit, if it is to have any meaning, having listened to all these excellent presentations and discussions, should mark the start of a people-driven and mass-based effort to reaffirm the foundations of our unity. I think it was Ms. Enedby that said this thing should go down to the grassroots. To this end, it may be worthwhile to consider birthing the Nigeria agenda. The Nigeria agenda for unity, for progress, and for prosperity. Doing so will be our own way of sending out a very clear, unequivocal, and an undiluted message that it is now time out too, and a red card for all agendas that do not emanate from a place of unalloyed commitment to advancing our unity in our forward march to greater heights. And I encourage the patriots organized under the banner of the National Prosperity Movement to work with other like-minded bodies and redouble efforts towards the launching of the Nigeria agenda, and strive to make it the platform on which we should invest our efforts at stabilizing the country on an even keel. Finally, as we digest the various rallying messages that have emanated from today's proceedings, let us remember the important reminder which the late political scientist Ali Mazrui shared with us as Africans in that popular documentary, The Triple Heritage. We are the people of the day before yesterday and the day after tomorrow. Let us dig deep into the lessons of our history and the comparative experiences of others in order to claim tomorrow as ours in our journey of national rebirth and progress. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. You can do better. Do better for our own JKF. The other side, we have JFK. Here we have JKF. Thank you, Your Excellency. It wouldn't have been anything different. We know you. We know your capacity to deliver. So those of you here challenged to take up the agenda, you have taken up the agenda, and it's good to run with it. May I now have the pleasure, the honor, the respect to invite His Eminence Sultan Muhammadu Saad Abubakar, the Sultan of Sokoto, ably represented today by the Emir of Kefi, Alhaji Shehu Chindo Yamusa III. Your Royal Highness, sir.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The chairman of this occasion, Professor IBM Haruna, retired general, elder statesman, Your Excellency, the executive governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, Honorable Sidi Ali, Professor Atahiru Jega, the keynote speaker, Dr. Garba Abari of the National Orientation, distinguished guests, royal fathers here, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I am here standing for His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, who has instructed me to come and read his message to this great occasion. And I read, I am delighted to be a part of this important event at a time that it has become imperative to discuss Nigerians' unity. For some time now, the unity of our country has been called to question. It has been slowing down national integration and undermining national development. Our democracy will appear to have been caught in the trap created by this phenomenon. It is therefore important we put this issue on the table and discuss them with a view to finding solutions to the problems of national unity. I am particularly delighted that this summit has brought together some of the most erudite scholars on the subject and some of the key political leaders in the country whose view and opinion on this subject is both weighty and potent. I am confident that this summit will unravel some of these problems and provide the solutions. The presence of political leaders from both the ruling as well as the opposition parties already indicates some level of unity and will hopefully guarantee implementation of the solution over time. The significance of national unity in modern nation is fairly obvious. It makes the arrival at a national consensus much easier and much faster. which in turn accelerate the rate of development of the nation. National unity allows political leaders to harvest citizens' commitment and contribution in nation building and national development. National unity is one of the most effective prevention of international conflict that can drain the resources of the nation and derail its progress. It is therefore an essential element of modern governance and requires investment of national resources to secure it and promote it. Almost every modern nation state struggles with its own national unity. The United States of America, for example, is one of the most diverse nations and has, over the 200 years of its existence, tried to forge national unity. And even though it has achieved tremendous gains, it is still a work in progress. Similarly, the nations of Europe have struggled within themselves to build their national unity over the time. Europe has achieved a particular feat over times in not only keeping the different nation states united, but also forging unity among European nations in forming the European Union. All this, in spite of the diversity in Europe, China has its own diversity too, which may not be obvious to some of us very far away. Indeed, its economic success is only a measure of its achievement in national unity. Despite these achievements, China is still struggling to accommodate its Muslim population. National unity is not an easy thing to achieve and is not a one-off affair. The management of diversity is a continuous business which requires appropriate policies, monitoring, and evaluation. Nigeria is not alone in this business of building and sustaining national unity. In Nigeria, we have the extra burden of colonization that has brought about so many ethnic groups together by fate. This could have been done by wars or famine. As it has happened in the history of many nations, it should be a consolation that we are not alone, for it provides us the good fortune of having lessons to learn from the success as well as the failures of others. We also have a range of some of the best practices from different parts of the world and different historical epoch to consider and adopt to our current circumstances. Some of the obvious things to bear in mind is that the world is designed to be diverse. Nature is diverse. And in diversity, we find sustainability. Diversity is therefore a fortune, and like most fortunes, it needs to be guided and managed very well to reap the benefits, rather than complain about our diversity. We should strive to master the skills of management of this diversity. Some of the problems for which we blame our diversity are actually problems arising from our failures to manage the diversity. We need to look into our past as well, the present, to find out how others have done it. For example, Sokoto Caliphate is an example of how independent but fighting Hausa states of the 17th and 18th centuries were brought together under one roof and united under a single polity, which gave them more security, boosting commerce and learning. This did not come easy. This was deliberate social engineering by the leaders of the caliphate. We can see from the many books they wrote. They first debated and settled on the membership of the community, who is a citizen and who is not. It was not an easy debate, as the caliphate was a plural state made of people of diverse ethnicity and religion. This design deliberates policies to give the citizen a sense of belonging, encouraging the settlement of nomadic groups and organized urbanization. They developed policies around trade, taxation, organization of artisans, and a legal system that responds to injustice and oppression, making the state to take responsibility of its citizen and creating a sense of belonging in the citizen. The caliphate, like any human effort, had its limitations, from which we should also learn. It will appear that one major problem we have around our national unity and cohesion in this country is that the discourse, even among the educated, is driven more by ignorance and emotions than knowledge. The discourse must be an informed one, driven by facts and figures. Otherwise, we can find ourselves boxed into dialogue of the deaf, where no one understands the other. We also have to avoid confusing unity with uniformity. We don't have to be uniform to be united. Nature is not just diverse, but it is also intelligent. The length of our fingers are not the same, precisely because each finger has a unique role to perform in giving us the grip we need to survive. Diversity is not for nothing. We shall try to understand it and indeed celebrate it. This can only happen if we ask our scholars to lead the debate. Some of us who attended unity schools and serve in the armed forces find it difficult to understand where the unnecessary hatred is coming from. When did ignorance take over the minds of the nation? A question posed by His Eminence. Recently, I read a quote that appears to be anonymous. It says, and I quote, "Two people can manage a society. The one who knows and does not talk, and the one who does not know and talks," unquote. I think for the good of our country, we should ask those who know to speak up and those who don't to shut up. I leave you with this thought and thank you for listening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness. So we are bringing it home now, and that's why I'm going to the chairman. So just give us a very brief closing remarks. We are bringing it home now. Chairman, sir. We're on the road to closing now, sir. So very brief closing remarks. Sit down, sir. Sit down. By consensus, sir, they said. House, chairman should sit down. Thank you, sir.
By order of the House, I am sitting down, but don't expect me to say much. I'm feeling very comfortable. Short closing remarks. if I might just once more express my gratitude to each and every one of the dignitaries present. It's been a privilege to sit and hold the chair for this very important, thought-provoking discussion. I can only say that we express our gratitude to the keynote address by Professor Jega, supplemented by the speech of His Excellency, Chairman of Governors Forum and Governor of Ekiti State. We have, in fact, calculated our brains on this issue of unity. And we're living here with great value in anticipation of improved circumstances of our practicing the recommendations and the positive imperatives for unity. I think that with time, we will have covered much more grounds, because I felt that we ought to have had a discussion on defense and security. We know that all the issues we brought out that are threatening our unity or that have been recommended to promote our unity can all be viewed in our state of defense and security. In my opinion, I think we are not yet fully prepared for the defense of security of the inherited independent Nigeria, which was having very small capacity to defend the country that was meant only as a commercial outpost that was being managed by the colonial government. I think we have to take more seriously the fundamental basis of our existence and our progress, which is the ability to defend and the capacity to secure our nation. And that wise, I think that we should expand those experiments of unity schools and National Youth Service. I think that our security is highly incapacitated, because with 200 million population, I think we should have no less than perhaps 5 million people under arms to secure and defend our territorial integrity and our cultural livelihood, and to participate creditably, perhaps as we have been doing in securing world peace. I thank each and everyone for being at this important conference. We hope and pray God will bless this country to benefit from all the contributions that have been made. We have the intelligentsia, we have the intelligence, we have the people, we have the leaders, although not used successfully or positively to move this country forward. But I think from this conference, we will all be charged in our minds and in the minds of those who can influence that this country deserves better and can be more united and can work in solidarity in promoting the perceived image and position of Nigeria in the community of nations. Thank you for coming, and God bless us all.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I covet your age, and I know God will make me to get to your age, sir. Thank you, sir. So taking it home finally, those of you who have left is good, but those of you who are sitting back, it's good you are sitting back because we'll serve you lunch. Or you don't want to eat lunch? All right, Your Excellency, Royal Highness, Professor Jega, thank you so much for sitting tight and listening to us, Prof, as well, and all our guests, the Senator. Now let's get the former Commissioner for Information, Culture and Tourism, Bauchi State, and NPM Coordinator for Northeast, Honorable Umar Ibrahim Sadi, to come and tell us how glad they are that this happened today, and that we indeed waited until this time to see it finish. Immediately after him, the cultural troupe, you will come back again to entertain us just as the guests begin to filter out. So, your vote of thanks, sir.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, sir, please permit me to stand on the existing and already established protocol. Good afternoon, everyone, and warm greetings from the National Prosperity Movement. We have listened to all the presentations here today, and I wish to state that they are all inspiring. Hope in the long term, prospect and greatness for our country, Nigeria. Hope that someday we can overcome our present challenges. From the presentations of the keynote speaker to the panel discussion and even the goodwill messages, it is obvious that we all crave this ideal Nigeria, a Nigeria that works for all and not just for a few. A Nigeria that is stable, secure, and prosperous. That is the Nigeria that we also seek at the National Prosperity Movement. That is why our organization is at the forefront in the advocacy for equity, inclusion, and prosperity for all Nigerians. But we are also aware and understand fully the place of good leadership in birthing this peaceful and prosperous Nigeria. Without the right leadership, this will only be a talk or a motion. An example of a ceiling fan where it can move but cannot go anywhere, can only rotate in one place. So we at the NPM are committed to working for the right kind of leadership that will actualize this dream of a prosperous Nigeria. Who knows the person to fix Nigeria and lead us to the promised land may even be in this room with us today. My job here is not to rehearse all that has been said already. It is to say thank you, Nagode, Eshe, and Dalu. On behalf of the National Prosperity Movement, we thank everyone here for coming, for putting their time, knowledge, and expertise at our service. Thank you. We wish you a safe trip back to your base. I remain Umar Ibrahim Sade, Northeast Coordinator of National Prosperity Movement. Thank you.
Honestly, I don't want to go. Believe me, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Do you want to go? Where are you going to? I appreciate you on behalf of the National Prosperity Movement. You have been so wonderful. So where is the cultural troupe? You've been so wonderful. And I know that any other time you are called upon, you will show up. We've had some fun. We've had very We've had very fantastic discussions, very lively. And I know you've taken out so much from here. My name is Nick Hayes. I'm the one that was asked to put these things, coordinate and, keep talking to you, telling you at every point what is happening and what is not happening. I've enjoyed my time as well too. Please, I think there should be a group photograph. Please, let's not miss out on this. Jero, there should be a group photograph. The special guest of honor, our keynote speaker, where? Please, listen to this announcement, please. Kindly listen to this announcement. The keynote speaker, our panelists, the special guest of honor, His Excellency, the Emir of Kefi, our chairman. Please, if you can kindly move out to paparazzi, where? Paparazzi. Yes, thank you. If you can kindly move out to the welcome carpet zone place, please. There will be photograph session there. There will be photograph session there. Traditional troop, take it over from there. Take it up, take it up, take it up. Thank you. See you again. Please, Your Excellency, sir, Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ekiti State, sir, group photograph outside, sir. Thank you, sir.
I'm taking the national anthem. That would be the real signal.
All right, so from the consul, from the deck, can we have the national anthem, please? National anthem. Play, play, play. Nigerians call to serve our fatherland. Please come and pick your mic.